Good morning and welcome to the 2017 Clemson Invitational. I'm here with Megan and Nikki. We're looking at the first race of the Varsity 8. Lined up here with all 7 boats ready to go. Lane 0, Oregon State. Lane 1, Oklahoma. Lane 2, Washington State. Lane 3, Ohio State. Lane 4, Duke. Lane 5, Pennsylvania. Lane 6, Cornell. Megan, before we start, looks like any minute here, if you can just talk about what they're feeling at the starting line as we get set with the first heat of the Varsity 8.
Well, for me, this was always the point in the race where I was both super excited and nervous. It's kind of the best and worst feeling all at once. You're sitting up at the line and you're ready to go, and you want to just see how much all the work you have put in it will pay off. So you're filled with nerves, but you're also hopefully confident in you and your team's ability to execute.
So as we look here, Megan, we see 7 boats lined up, and so waiting for that flag at the starters platform there. They're changing now to starts where they really go from boat to boat and sit ready to go, and then they set here as the flag goes down, everyone will take off. Talk about how high you get start rates there at the beginning as we start and as we settle into the race.
Well, in the 8, it's kind of like a tornado of activity at the start. There's a lot of, it's almost violent to watch. You're getting up at around anywhere between 40 plus strokes a minute. Probably these boats will get to around 42, 43. Just to get the boat up and out of the water and moving off the line as quickly as possible, because it's a heavy boat and it takes some power to get it up off the line.
So Megan, as we see here with these 7 boats, there are actually 21 teams here at this race, and so with some of this now mid-season, if cross-regional racing, so it's become one of the large events in the country. Certainly one of the great opportunities for everyone to qualify and show where they stack. So we'll talk throughout the weekend about teams qualifying and what it takes to do that. But certainly a lot of these teams here are seated right now in the heats, but it's not true progression per se, but if you can beat a team from a different region, sets you up for the national championship later on here to qualify in 4 weeks. So it looks like about ready to go. Everyone's sitting there, blades in the water there at likely half 3/4 slide, ready to get started. So sitting for that, again, looking for that flag. If you look in the middle of your screen, the starter platform there looks like a couple people in blue shirts up in the corner. You're going to see that flag go down, and as you said, a tornado activity. Looking forward to getting this started.
Yeah, it's exciting, and they're all.
So we'll wait till they kind of get parallel to see where people are. You'll see off the line probably 45 strokes per minute. So for those who are not used to the sport, so if you think about just in 60 seconds, they're doing maybe 3/4 a stroke a second. So we'll get a shot here. Looks like maybe about 100 meters here. You'll see boats coming off the line at probably mid-high 40s in the Varsity 8. The Varsity 8 is certainly the flagship of most programs. So it looks like closest to us is lane 6. That's Cornell that you see in the red and white there. And then Penn in the yellow boat, Empacher there. And then looks like Ohio State maybe just sneaking out early, a couple seats, and then close between maybe Washington State and then Duke and Pennsylvania. So we get to coming up maybe just about 250, I think, from this angle. So Ohio State now with about 3-seat lead over, a real close bunch there between lanes 2, Washington State, lane 4, Duke, lane 5, Pennsylvania maybe a fallen seat off the pace there. Ohio State, national champions 2 years ago, second in the country last year, and the Varsity 8 now looking to be about, let's say, 4 seats up on the field. Looks like second place is still pretty tight there between Duke and Washington State. Washington State maybe a seat or 2 on Duke, and then still maybe Penn there in 5th. Oklahoma also on the far side there with Oregon State. So a little hard to see Oklahoma. Looks like they're also in the bunch there towards the front of the pack. Trailing a little bit, Cornell and Oregon State. Cornell maybe about a length off the pack there, but again, Ohio State with about 5-6 seats up.
Ohio State is ranked currently on the latest coaches poll number 4, and at this point in the race they just passed, I believe that's the 500-meter mark in, so the crews here are all lengthening out to what they call their base pace, which is what they're going to do the majority of the race at, and you'll see Ohio State is in fact leading the pack. They're about 4 or 5 seats up on the rest of the crew. At the Invitational, there's actually 9 teams that are top 20 in the rowing world currently. So
again, panning through the progression here, Cornell looks to be in 7th right here, about a length off, still certainly in the mix. And looking, again, placing-wise in these initial heats impacts where they might be in Sunday's racing. So Cornell in 7th, looks like tight between maybe Oregon State and Pennsylvania. Penn maybe, let's say, 3 or 4 seats up in Oregon State. And Ohio State now trying to get a full length there. It looks like Duke is in 2nd, and then Washington State in 3rd behind them. Probably looks like Oklahoma in 4th, Penn 5th, Oregon State 6th, Cornell 7th. Coming through here just past Looks like we're just around 750 mark from our vantage point. Ohio State has almost a full length. The top boat seated in this regatta here, and certainly the varsity has been quite quick over the last couple years. Again, almost a full length over Duke. Duke's now sitting, let's say, about 4 seats up on Washington State, 3 seats up on Washington State, about 2 seats up on Oklahoma. Looking to, normally these races you see the varsity 8s going about, let's say, 310 or so through the 1,000. Certainly fast conditions right now, maybe a slight crosswind from this vantage point. So through the 1,000 there, about 3:05, 3:06 unofficially for the lead boat, about 3 seconds back to Duke. Then Washington State 3rd, Oklahoma 4th, Pennsylvania 5th there, and then looks like a good battle there 6th. Cornell's come back a little bit on Oregon State from the outside. So we head into the last 800. Talk to Megan about how these rowers are feeling as they kind of know where they stand a bit here, but certainly trying to make up ground throughout the body of the race.
So in the last 800 meters, you're in what we call the third 500 of the race, and it's arguably one of the most uncomfortable points, because at this point they've been going, like you said, Steve, for about anywhere between 3 and 4 minutes, and it's incredibly painful. Your muscles are burning, your lungs are burning. Everything is telling you that you can't continue to do this, except for the coxswain in the front of the boat, who is convincing you that you can do this, you can go harder. I found throughout my career that most of the races are won in the middle 1,000 of the race. If you get off the line slow, that's not ideal, but in the middle 1,000, if you can really go to work, if you can push through that wall of pain that you're starting to feel, that's when you can start to overtake crews. And it's a big test of fitness and mental strength here at this point to continue pushing through the third 500.
So we're probably about 700 meters to go. Ohio State certainly has open water, and as you see the glitches on the camera, we actually use wireless technology, so when they're that far away, sometimes it's hit and miss a bit on where you see the camera. But you can see as the frames catch up, Ohio State certainly has open water now on second place. Looks like Washington State's creeping up on Duke there. Certainly a tight battle for second. The way the points progress here is that 7 points for first place, 6 for second on down, and the highest point total at the end of today will progress to tomorrow. So it's second place, very important for the Sunday progression here. So it looks like Washington State now has a couple seats on Duke there, and Duke has about 5 or 6 seats up on Oklahoma, as we now look like in the last 500 or so. So Ohio State now open water up, and when you look at this angle, the vantage point, it's a little bit tough to tell because of the angle. However, you can see Ohio State, the red and white there, red and white blades, nearest in the camera shot, just about open water, though. It looks a little different angle. It is open water there, as you can imagine.
It's a trick on the eye here.
And then looks like second, Washington State. Again, Duke you can't see there in the near side, but certainly right in the thick of it. It should be a good battle for second, third, and fourth. And again, those points will add up quickly at the varsity 8 level for the team.
Steve, we should point out that the red buoys that you're seeing on the team indicate the last 250 meters. This lets the rowers and the coxswain know that they're within 45 to 50 seconds of the finish line. So it's the last 250. You're going all out here, obviously, to get your boat across the line first. And as you look at these 3 boats, you can see the difference in the rhythm, but they're starting to bring the rate up again to sprint it across the finish line to end the race. And it looks like Ohio State has, again, at this angle it's difficult, but has a decent amount of open water on the rest of the field, and they've started to create some separation between second, third, and fourth.
And now just the last, let's say, 5 or 6 strokes here as they come to the finish line. You'll see the camera pan to be a straight shot here at the finish. It'll stop there to get a sense of what the spread is from first to second. So just about there at the last couple strokes, and we'll get you times as soon as we're done. There, may have heard the horn there, and about a half length open water back to, looks like Washington State unofficially second, Duke looks to be third, Oklahoma fourth, and then as the screen kind of comes forward here, again we'll get you times. Looks like Oregon State is tight battle there for fifth, over Penn sixth.
That was close.
Just by the eye there, looks like Oregon State had that, and then Cornell seventh. Again, we'll get you these times. May happen between races as they're going along. We'll shift back to the second heat of the varsity 8. We'll give you times as we have them. So the second heat will be lane 0, Columbia, lane 1, Tennessee, lane 2, Syracuse, lane 3, Texas, lane 4, Indiana, lane 5, Gonzaga, lane 6, Clemson. Looks like we have a start there, and we'll just give you times here as we're going between them. So Ohio State winning a 6:20.6 unofficially. Washington State second, 6:26. Duke third, 6:30. Oregon State fourth, 6:39. And if you could just talk, Megan, about those times, kind of what a good speed is for a varsity at this level, this time of year with the wind.
Well, it looks like based on what we're looking at with the wind, there might be a puff of a headwind out there. 6:26, 6:20, 6:30. These are all pretty close in times here. You're looking for a varsity 8 to go probably around.
Yeah, 6:20 or so, 6:16 nowadays.
Yeah, 6:16. So they're just getting into racing this weekend, and we'll see, I'm sure, some faster times as the racing progresses throughout the regatta here.
So now in the first 500 in the second heat, just passed through. Looks like Texas in the lead there, and a tight battle between Syracuse and Indiana for second there. It looks to be, let's see, yeah, maybe Indiana just, well, it's probably too close to call there for second between those guys. And then it's like on the far side, Tennessee also in the mix there, Columbia also there, and then the near side, a little bit tough to tell because of the angle, Clemson and Gonzaga as well there. Just to recap the first race, Ohio State 6:20.6, Washington State second at 6:26.2, Duke 6:30.5, again rounding here. Oregon State was, Oklahoma was 6:31.7, then Oregon State 6:39.7, Penn 6:40.1, and Cornell 6:46.
You see Texas here pulling to about almost a full boat length lead on this race, and it's when you're watching at home, you can see the rhythm. It's a good long rhythm, and they're sending the puddles long to bow here. So a puddle is the amount of water that you're creating off of your finish, and they're striding out to a good solid aggressive rhythm in that boat, and it looks like to be a good battle between second and third.
Yeah, that second and third battle, Syracuse and Indiana, is a key battle for NCAA's, which again we'll talk about a lot. Certainly, when you talk about with the regions, the ACC and the Big Ten, that battle may be a good harbinger for things to come for whoever gets ahead as a team. So length out for Texas here about 850, 900 in. And it looks like Indiana pulling away from Syracuse just a bit there, again based on that angle there. Certainly that battle now for fourth looks to be between maybe Tennessee and Clemson at that side. So here coming into the 1,000, actually just past the 1,000, excuse me, Texas with open water, kind of matching what Ohio State did in the previous race, and those two won't see each other until till Sunday morning, but that'll be a good battle for between the south and central areas. So Texas, let's say length, a little over length here, let's say a length and a quarter, length and a half, just pushing into maybe the last 850 to go. Second, Indiana still out there as we try to keep up with the camera there. Again, that spot on the course when we're kind of the furthest distance with the cameras can be a little bit deceiving. Syracuse in third, and looking to try to come back here, maybe about 5-6 seats off Indiana, certainly staying in that battle, and maybe Clemson there in fourth there. It's tough to tell from this angle right now. So about 750 or so to go as we push that third 500. So at this point, it looks like Clemson there in, gosh, I think that's fourth place.
Yeah.
And then Gonzaga maybe, well, it's just tough to tell at that distance there. So Texas again out here with maybe 650 to go. Texas open water up. Indiana maybe 3/4 of a length up on Syracuse. Again, that battle for second and third. And also, likely the top two teams in each race, morning and afternoon, if it's the same ones, likely to progress to Sunday. And then the last spot, so in the 7-boat grand final tomorrow, if anyone's been first and second in both heats will clearly qualify, and then anyone who's second or third, that's where the battle will be based on how they finished in respect to other heats. So it looks like the last maybe 500 or so for Texas there in the lead here. Again, just open water up. Looks to be over Indiana in second.
Texas looks like they're moving along comfortably at around 33 strokes a minute here coming into the last 250 of the race. They've got a comfortable lead here, so they're just they can see everything. The nice thing about rowing races is that you can see your competitors when you're ahead of them. So it's fun to be able to watch either what's coming up on you or what you're moving away from. So they're very much in control of the race here and just bringing the boat across the finish line, knowing that they have to race later as well.
And Megan's comment before, last 250 or so, about 45 seconds to go or so for Texas. They can smell the finish line there. And because of the camera angle, it's a little tough to tell what's going on there second and third. It still looks like Indiana's up a couple seats on maybe half the course of length on on Syracuse. Syracuse maybe coming back there. And then you see on the far side Columbia there. Tough to tell because of the angle of where they fit. But Texas clearly moving on here to in good position for this afternoon.
It'll be a great race to watch Texas and Ohio State, number 4 and 5 in the CRCA coaches polls this week.
Yeah, and then there's a third varsity 8 here, third heat of the varsity 8 coming up next. So hopefully the winners of those three should be in good position to compete later on.
Yeah.
So Texas here, unofficially, we'll get you the time here in a second, but coming to the last buoy or so, unofficially maybe a couple seconds faster than Ohio State, which will get you here. Second place looks to be Indiana by actually now length over, looks like Syracuse in third from lane 2. Lane 4, and we haven't seen, there's a little more spread there in this race than the previous one. Looks to be Columbia and then Tennessee real tight there. Columbia 4th, Tennessee 5th, Gonzaga, and then Clemson 7th. Again, those times will pop up as soon as we can there. So we've talked about a little bit with the varsity 8s and progressing through, but this is a team competition. And so the second varsity 8s, which we have one more heat of the varsity 8, those points matter as well for the whole team. So if you can win all 3 in your heats as a team, that's certainly a big driver for what may go on.
You see these girls kind of doubled over here. You're in quite a bit of pain at this point once the race is over. The lactic acid is flooding in your muscles, and you're trying to catch your breath and make the burning in your legs stop. But it's a good feeling to come across the line first and know that you had a good race.
So looking at waiting for the times to come in here in the second heat. We should get to the third heat here in a moment. Just should have that load up here any second here.
The third heat today we have Minnesota, University of Central Florida, Wisconsin, University of Virginia, Louisville, UCLA, and Navy. And this will be the last heat of the first varsity 8s of today.
So in the times, Texas's time looks like actually 6:25, so it's going off the eye there, but 6:25 unofficially for Texas first. Second was Indiana, 6:32.3. Third, Syracuse, 6:36.1. Fourth was Columbia, 6:44.6. Fifth, Tennessee, 6:45.4. Sixth, Gonzaga, 6:46.5. And seventh, Clemson, 6:47.8.
So we should mention to people at home watching that you may notice that Texas went 6:25 versus Ohio State's 6:20. That you can't really put a whole lot of weight in that. It just depends on the level of competitiveness throughout the heat, and what the coaches have told the women prior to racing, like if they get a big enough lead, how they're going to execute the rest of the race. So it should be it's looking like it should shape up to be a great final, and we'll see who's going to join them here as the third and final heat of the varsity 8 goes off the line.
So just setting up here, you see the picture of the third varsity 8 the third heat of the varsity 8. Lane 0, Minnesota. Lane 1, Central Florida. Lane 2, Wisconsin. Lane 3, Virginia. Lane 4, Louisville. Lane 5, UCLA. And Lane 6, Navy. Looks like off the line, UCLA looks to have a fast start in Lane 5. Virginia moving with them in Lane 3, and Wisconsin also up there in Lane 2 look to be early leaders. Looks like Minnesota maybe just a little bit back there in Lane 0, Navy maybe a couple seats back in Lane 6, but looks like from this angle, UCLA in Lane 5 there, certainly off the line, doing well, and then also with them Wisconsin, and then Virginia maybe 2 seats back of Virginia there, but certainly early on, maybe see 250 or so into the race. Looks like actually Wisconsin has the lead there. UCLA had a little bit of that angle there with the camera. Also Central Florida certainly close there with Wisconsin. Central Florida maybe in second there. Virginia just off them in third. And then UCLA in fourth there from Lane 5. So Wisconsin continuing to maybe push out maybe 2 to 3 seats here over close battle between Virginia and Central Florida.
It's important that these women get into a good rhythm early. You're not going to win the race in the first 200 meters, but it's very important that you establish your rhythm inside your boat and set that up so you can execute the next 1,800 meters of the race well. Because if you fly off the line there and don't really have a rhythm, there's nothing to fall back on and keep powering down the course.
So it looks like about 550, 600 in, seeing kind of places 4 through 7 there. And the leaders, looks like Virginia's now moved ahead of Central Florida there and moving back a bit on Wisconsin. Wisconsin maybe 2 to 3 seats on Virginia. Virginia now maybe, let's say, 4 seats up on Central Florida for the first to third. So Virginia now maybe a seat and a half, 2 seats off Wisconsin there. Out in the near lanes that you see camera, lane 6 is nearest to the camera, lane 0 is the far side. So we're talking about the boats and the lanes. Just for clarification, lane 6 is closest to us.
Looks like Virginia and Wisconsin are going stroke for stroke here at the same stroke rate down the course. Pretty tight race first through fourth right now.
Yeah, and so about 800 meters in here, looks like Virginia may be a seat behind Wisconsin. Wisconsin had that quick start early. Virginia was with Central Florida there off the line, and Virginia's moved away from Central Florida, but certainly stroke for stroke there with Wisconsin. So first and second, a good battle there.
Virginia's definitely moving up on Wisconsin now. They've just taken it appears to be about a seat, so they must have made a move. A move being that they've committed to increasing their boat speed at that particular point during the race and seeing if they can push to either get a seat or push back into the lead or push into a crew that is ahead of them.
So that battle for first and second certainly there, but also third and fourth looks like Central Florida and UCLA battling out there for third and fourth. UCLA was quick off the line early, and then Central Florida kind of moved there. Now it looks like UCLA coming back a bit. And then a battle for fifth, sixth, seventh between Minnesota, Louisville, and Navy, also pretty close to call there. Again, as you see the angle here, we're past 1,000. Looks like real close again between those first two. Wisconsin looks like they've responded to Virginia's move, and it looks bow ball to bow ball there. And then in Central Florida, maybe, let's say, 4 or 5 seats up on UCLA for that third spot.
This is fun racing. I always loved racing, Steve, when you're right next to another boat, because the lanes are obviously not very far apart, so you can kind of feel the energy of all the other crews that are out there. And when you're going stroke for stroke or seat for seat with a boat next to you, it's really exciting. That's the epitome of racing.
Yeah. So now here, about 7:50 to go. It looks like that Louisville's in fifth. Navy 6th and Minnesota 7th. And so you talked, Megan, about how when you have 7 boats, the kind of chaos that happens the first 250 until it kind of narrows out, how the focus for them to stay in their boat.
Yeah, it is very important. My experience is that it is easy to get distracted by what's going on outside around you, but again, in the grand scheme of things, what's going on around you doesn't matter as much as what's happening inside your boat of 9 or 4, depending on the size of the boat you're in. If you can stay focused on your boat, I find that it leads to more success further down the line, because you want to stay together and be able to push together and feed off of each other.
So as we look here with about, let's say 550, 600 to go, great battle for first between Wisconsin and Virginia. And when you look, these are the 3 and 4 seeds coming in, so it makes sense that this battle will certainly be the tightest. So it looks like Wisconsin may have about a seat or 2 on Virginia, and then third looks to clearly be Central Florida, with UCLA clearly fourth. And again, points, we'll start tallying these as we get going here, as they come into the last, let's say, 400 or so. So close battle there. Looks like Wisconsin's up by a couple seats. Hard to tell again from this angle what's going on. We'll get to those red buoys marked at the last 250. As they start to pick up the stroke rate, Megan, talk about how you kind of start at 45 strokes a minute, settle back down, and then really try to crank it up here at the end.
So here at the end, you're going to approach back up closer to 40 like you did coming off the line. Right now, it looks as if Wisconsin is around 36, 37 strokes a minute, and Virginia is right around 38. And so it's a pretty tight battle here, so they're going to try and sprint it out and increase their stroke rate while at the same time increasing their boat speed, not just adding rate to it. You want to make sure that you're able to add power and increase your boat speed, not just continue to take more strokes.
Yeah, it looks like that Wisconsin time moved to maybe 4 or 5 seats lead as we get to the last 200 or so. So it looks like Wisconsin first, Virginia second, Central Florida still goes up on UCLA.
Okay, eyes on the line.
Cheers the times. Not sure what this race. So we mentioned the 6:20. So we have some new times for second. We'll get to that. So give you the times for the second race. We're waiting for the third one here. The second race, it was 6:17 after all there. So Texas 6:17 won the second heat. Indiana. Second.
One more.
Lost a couple of pictures there. Looks like Minnesota at 7th, Navy at 6th. Go back to the second race. Texas was first, 6:17.5. Indiana 6:24.1. Syracuse 6:28. Columbia 6:36.5. Tennessee 6:37.5. 6:38.4.
I'm gonna fall.
6:39. 9. Wisconsin 6:20.4, 6:22, 6:23. So
it's always one of those
fastest time
in and out.
was Texas, and first 3 heats, and then Wisconsin had
I just got time.
Oh, okay.
fastest time.
It sounds correct.
Okay, good. If you can double check, there was the one not so tight one at 5 and 4, but he just was for
5 and 546.
546.
Every
Perfect.
coxswain has to weigh a minimum.
Yeah. They're the crews I
I
don't want
believe
to
it's
be
110
in.
pounds, so if you have 110 pounds, you have to carry what's called a load, and it's just usually sand
Pardon?
in the boat and put in the horse, so that
Who was that?
Where's
at
our
least one area of coxswain seat to
Who's the
show
ref?
and
that would be Pete, and I'm not sure who's because with Bruce out of rotation. There's Rachel.
So
Rachel.
Rachel?
second person aid, so teams at the top of the top 8. Just on top of the
There's a power couple.
This
6
minutes.
Thank
Oh,
you.
there's
second person aid.
fast cruise.
Yeah.
Is there what's this fast course today, or
No, they're just fast crews.
that's exciting?
Yeah, it's a cross field, but the start line, actually, let's watch these guys dump the night to see
How choppy it is up there.
yeah, because it can get really bad. Yeah, not too bad.
Oklahoma lane 5, Oregon State lane 6, and this really matters for the team comparison. So when the selection committee looks at who, what teams should go, if you've had all 3 classifications race each other, it gets a great comparison for who really the stronger team is. And this race is really one of the best races out there for that, with teams coming from all over the country. So we should have a start here in a moment for the second varsity 8. Again, the times there for the third heat was 6:20.4 for Wisconsin, 6:23 flat for Virginia, 6:26.7 for Central Florida, 6:29.7 for UCLA, 6:34.6 for Louisville, 6:35.6 for Navy, 6:43.7 for Minnesota. And Megan, you might want to talk. We saw at the beginning there where Central Florida UCLA had taken off, Central Florida took off, and then Wisconsin was right in the mix, and then kind of it changed a little bit as we got going with the race. And
yeah, a lot of there's a different strategy to racing. Some people like to get off the line high and fast and see if they can hold on to the lead, while other teams will kind of build into it and establish, like I mentioned, a nice solid rhythm that they can build off of throughout the middle of the race. So it really just depends on your coach and the personnel in the team on where you think you can gain the most speed. And the first heat of the second varsity 8 is just off the line, you see. And the water conditions still look pretty good. I mean, the head looks like there's a little bit of a wind out there, but nothing terrible at this point.
So it looks like off the line, buoys, as Megan referred to in the last 250, also in the first 100 meters, what's considered the breakage zone, which we'll explain here in a little bit. Looks to be the middle lanes starting off, maybe Ohio State there, maybe a seat up on might be Duke out there, I think, in second, Washington State third, and then Oklahoma in fourth. On the near side, or excuse me, on the far side, Penn's also in that mix, and that kind of 5 pack boats out there. And so, can we talk about how key it is to stay internal? Looks like Ohio State maybe just a hair up on really 3 boats, all really close. Certainly, whoever takes the stroke is maybe in second there between Duke, Washington State, Oklahoma. Well, actually, I'm sorry, Duke, Washington State, and Pennsylvania. I apologize. So looks like maybe see Oregon State in 7th, maybe just off the pack, but everyone else is certainly in that bunch for that really tight racing.
Oregon State has a bucket rig in their varsity 8, and so that means that there are you'll notice in the boat there are 2 pairs of women that have the oars on the same side of the boat right next to each other. Typically, you will see it alternating sides, but you can't really see it here in this particular picture, but as we pan up the boat, you'll see 5 and 6 seat have their oar on the same side, or 4, 5, and 6 and 7 have their oar on the same side of the boat. So that's just a different type of rig that the coaches decide is the best way to line up their boat.
So it looks like here, past the 500, Ohio State a couple seats up. Looks like Duke is in second, Oklahoma in third. Washington State maybe falling off just a little bit off that second and third place, but certainly not far off. On the far side, Cornell and Penn are also in that mix. A lot of times you'll find that, and Megan, you should speak about this, but the racing going on against each other there may bring you back in the race, or you may not even notice the race going on. And so over there in lane 0 and 1, Cornell Penn in a pretty good duel there for looks like
It's a
probably
pretty
5th,
tight
6th.
race here. We have 1st through 4th. Right now, the coxswains, I would imagine, are and as the rower, you really only want to focus on what's going on in front of you. And the coxswain's job is to kind of tell you where you're at. So they're executing the race plan that you've set up prior to racing, and they're letting you know, you have 2 seats on the boat next to you. You're down 2 seats. You're up 2 seats. You're moving. You'll see. It looks like Wisco is
It's Ohio State in the lead, yeah.
Oh,
Ohio State, yeah. Ohio State's in the lead there by about 4 or 5 seats. And the battle really is between Duke and Oklahoma, it looks like, for second there. Washington State maybe 6 seats off the pack there. So 6 seats maybe to fourth to third. And it looks like maybe with that angle, Duke's just a couple seats up on Oklahoma, but tough to tell with that angle. Ohio State, I'd say they finally started to assert themselves here. Maybe took a little longer than in the varsity 8, where the varsity 8 kind of cruised out early. Here you're seeing a good battle, and Washington State's staying in there for that 4th place spot. If they can stay tight, maybe a shot there at the end to come back. 5th and 6th, again, that battle with Cornell and Penn, Ivy League battle on the far side, and Oregon State 7th on the near side. So, again, Ohio State here looking at just past the 1,000-meter mark. Ohio State looks to be about maybe 8 seats up on the field, maybe almost a length there. And again, that tight battle with Duke and Oklahoma, tough to tell who between those guys is in second.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be quite a boat
Duke,
race.
just a couple seats up on Oklahoma now from that angle. Again, this is where the camera has some challenge because of the distance it has to cover. We have 2 different cameras working from location-wise. But Duke maybe a couple seats up on Oklahoma, and Oklahoma maybe 7 seats up on Washington State there in 4th. And again, that battle for 5th has been tight the whole way down between Cornell and Penn. So here's we move to, looks like the last maybe 750 or so, 700. Ohio State in the lead, and Oregon State in 7th, but really between them, between 2 through 6, not a huge distance. Certainly 2 through 4 is close, and 5, 6 maybe slightly back, but the 2 of them may be able to race each other back into the field there. So Oregon State here in the picture there as it kind of comes in and out. Oregon State in 7th there. We should see as we enter probably about 650 to go or so, going to the finish line camera, which is about that buoy is the 500-meter mark.
You can see the ripples on the water starting to pick up a little bit. The wind's starting to pick up, but again, it looks pretty even across all the lanes. It doesn't look like there is a lane that's going to have a distinct advantage, which is always great. In a boat race, you want it to be even across the field.
So it looks like with the camera here, Ohio State with just a bit of open water out. Duke maybe 4 or 5 seats up on Oklahoma. And Washington State looks to be coming back on Oklahoma just a bit there. So that could be a good battle for 3rd. And again, those points, trying to get that qualification for tomorrow morning, that 2nd, 3rd, 4th is key to who moves on. Certainly helping your team's chances for the end of the year. So Ohio State here looks like to be in the last 350 or so. Comfortable, confident, but certainly trying to maybe even compete with their own varsity in their times. That's pretty key to those guys' motivation once they get out. So Ohio State up by a length, and then looks like Duke's still in 2nd.
We were talking about NCAAs, and it's interesting to know Ohio State has been team champs at NCAAs 2013, 14, 15, and 16. They have actually 7 NCAA titles, coached by Andy Teitelbaum in his 22nd season.
So Ohio State here looks to be in the last 200 or so. Actually, Ohio State was 2nd last year. Cal won the team title. Ohio State was right very close to him. So they've won 3 of the last 4 certainly. But Ohio State here just about a length up. Looks to be Duke again, still 2nd there, and that's key for Duke for the team. That will really help them in their chances to qualify later on. So Ohio State here coming into the last couple strokes here.
Just about a boat length lead, I'd say, right?
Yeah, it looks about right.
It's hard to tell with the angle, maybe.
And it looks like the last set of buoys, that should be the finish line coming up right here. And then Duke's 2nd, and looks like Washington State went through Oklahoma for that 3rd spot. So that was a big move for Washington State. Oklahoma in 4th. That looks to be Cornell in 5th. Pennsylvania 6th. Yeah, and then Oregon State will be coming through in 7th. So big push there for Washington State. Again, varsity 8 did well with 2nd, the 2v 3rd here. And that's kind of where teams will be close there for that for the team progression. So now I have the 2nd heat of the varsity 8. We'll just set this up before we get times. Lane 0, Clemson, so on the far side. Gonzaga, lane 1. Indiana, lane 2. Texas, 3. Syracuse, lane 4. Tennessee, lane 5. Columbia, lane 6. So it looks like they're just about ready to start there. And again, you see the races, try to keep them pretty tight here to keep it before the wind pops up.
Yeah, 8-minute centers. They're sending them off. So far, we're right on time. It's pretty impressive.
So in the morning heat here in the varsity 8, Texas won by about 7 seconds. So see if their 2V can match their varsity 8 performance. So looks like off the line just from this angle, Texas and Syracuse looks to be moving as well there. Also, looks like Indiana may be out there, but we'll see here as they come through in the angle. Again, once the times come up from the first heat of the second varsity 8, we'll get them to you. So it looks like about 150, 200 in. And again, the angle there a little bit deceiving, but looks like Texas there in the lead. Tennessee also had a fast start in the varsity. It looks to replicate that here in the 2V. So off the line, let's say Texas maybe 2 to 3 seats up on Tennessee in there. Then Syracuse right in the mix. Tough to see their bow ball, but they're right in there. And then Indiana on that, just on the other side of Texas over there in lane 2, looks to be right with Tennessee for that second place spot. So again, we saw in the last race that Oklahoma was doing well, and Washington State was able to catch them at the end. So that body of the race really matters here. And can we talk about the beginning where going high and hard and really trying to nail it, and then the body of the race matters so much more for what happens.
Yeah, you really make a difference. You can really open up some space between the other crews during the body of the piece. It's a little bit tougher to do that right in the beginning and then hold on to that, but if you can establish an early rhythm like I've mentioned and then go to work during the body of the piece, that's when you're going to make the most gains.
So Texas, and replicating the varsity 8, we're in about 500 in, it looks like, or so, and Texas up by, let's say, 5 or 6 seats. Ohio State won both the 1V and 2V, so Texas trying to match them here in their heats. Texas, let's say, 5, 6 seats up on, looks to be maybe lane 2 Indiana tight there, and then Tennessee, those two battling out. Let's give Indiana maybe a seat lead over Tennessee for that second and third spot, and then back to maybe Syracuse there for fourth. You just see their bow ball kind of sneaking in there, now coming back a bit on Tennessee. Over on the far side, looks to be Clemson, hometown here. Clemson maybe in fifth there, certainly battling and right in the mix there, and then Gonzaga looks to be in sixth. Columbia just off that tough seeking because of the angle, but
Texas continuing to move away here, increasing their lead to about 6 or 7 seats. The coxswain probably at this point telling their crew that she wants to get an open water lead on everyone, so they're gonna push for that here in the second 500 going into the third 500.
Yeah, it's still waiting for the times for the last heat, so as soon as we get those, we'll get them to you. But Texas will certainly want to match the time of their 1V as well as all the other 2V races from the previous heat and the next one. So it looks to be Texas almost a length lead there. Texas over Indiana still in second. Tennessee staying right there, and Syracuse coming back here now on Tennessee a little bit. Again, in the middle of that race.
Second, third, and fourth is a great race.
Yeah, absolutely. And then over in lane 0, 1, and 6, pretty good battle there. I said before you couldn't see Columbia on the screen, but they're right in that. In fact, it's good a race for second, third, fourth.
Yeah, it is. This is a good heat.
So as we come towards the 1,000 here, Texas just about a length lead, and then looks to be again that battle second, third, fourth. You see that orange buoy, that's halfway through the race, and so same distance in college as they do at the Olympic level, 2,000 meters.
Yeah.
So looks like Texas just about a full length here by 1,000, and I'm sure goal of theirs is to get out and get in a good position. They can be confident.
Yeah, it's one of the. I always find that once you break open water on a crew, it's interesting to see crews that are able to keep pushing. When you're not right next to another boat, you can kind of become complacent or be content with where you're located in terms of being in the lead. So I think it's a real testament to the power and the mental strength of a team if you can, once you break open, continue to push away and stay inside your rhythm and your boat and begin to race a clock.
And you see the battle for Indiana and Syracuse in second and third. Tennessee maybe now just back and forth. But that battle for second is key. With Indiana beat Syracuse by about a length in the morning in the varsity 8 heat. Looks to be up by maybe, let's say, a half length right now. But that's likely to be, when again get to the qualification, those two boats will be key to which team at the end on Sunday is ahead. So it looks to be, let's see, in 5th place, looks to be Gonzaga there. And then maybe Clemson and Columbia, pretty tight battle for 6th, 7th. We're about maybe 750 or so from the finish here, and again Texas out on the lead.
Pretty uncomfortable at this point in the race. Last 750, your muscles are screaming at you at this point. So it's important that you stay focused internally and listen to your coxswain and just keep pushing here.
Yeah, and the picture now showing is that it looks like Syracuse coming back in Indiana, and so if Syracuse can flip that from the morning script from the varsity 8 heat to the 2V, that would be a big push for those guys. So Syracuse tight with Indiana for second. We may not know that till they cross the finish line with the way the angle is from the camera shot. But Texas clearly ahead here. Open water up on everyone, and then a good battle for second there with Tennessee still in 4th. So you can see on that so again from the far side, lane 0 over there Clemson, lane 1 Gonzaga, lane 2 Indiana, and Texas in the lead from this angle. Coming to about 250, 300 to go. Texas open water, and Syracuse on our side that you can't see, lane 4 nearest us. They're right there with Indiana. Just may not see it in the camera till
we cross the line.
Just sneak into the screen now, but it's deceiving. They're right with Indiana there from that angle.
Steve, I was talking with Texas coach Dave O'Neill yesterday, and he was talking about how he has 60 women of rowers back total, which is phenomenal. The sport has developed so much over the last 5 to 10 years. It's very exciting to see the gains that women's rowing is making.
Yeah, it's actually, I mean, it's exciting to see how many people out here. We've got 21 teams of probably, let's say an average of 50 per team, so you have almost 1,000 athletes competing this weekend. So Texas in the last, let's say, 50 meters or so.
Comfortable lead over second.
Yeah, we won't see a second until until they come across you, but
they're still very much pushing towards the line. That's great. I love seeing that.
So it looks like Syracuse in second, just over Indiana. So that's key for the two of those schools.
That was a great finish.
So Syracuse second, Indiana third. Looks to be Tennessee holds on to fourth there. Looks to be Gonzaga fifth, and that battle between Clemson. Looks like Columbia has taken over sixth, and then Clemson seventh. So still waiting on times from that previous heat, and then we'll get you these as well as soon as we can. But certainly that matchup there with Indiana and Syracuse key to what everyone's watching. The third heat will set up here while waiting for times. Lane 0 Navy, lane 1 UCLA, lane 2 Louisville, lane 3 Virginia, lane 4 Wisconsin, lane 5 Central Florida, lane 6 Minnesota. Again, these are the same teams that competed in the varsity 8, so that we have consistency throughout each flight. So teams are competing against each other consistently in all three classifications: the 1V, the first varsity 8, the second varsity 8, and the varsity 4. So it looks like 7 across. Everyone's lined up. When that racing's going on that you see, the boats are going in. And talk about just maybe the pre-race, how they feel as they kind of line up and they're getting into the platforms before the race starts.
Well, hopefully they're feeling confident in the work that they've put in thus far through the season. I mean, we're well into the spring season of racing here, so they should have be confident in their race plan and the execution of what they want to do when they go out there, when they line up. Of course, I'm sure there's a lot of nerves in the boat. Nerves show that you care and you're excited about what you're about to do. So they're just sitting here waiting. Sometimes it feels like forever for that flag to drop. I remember sitting thinking, oh my gosh, it has to have been a minute, and it's really only like 5 seconds, but you feel like it's an eternity before that flag drops and they say go.
Yeah, this battle, again, the 3 and 4 seeds, Virginia and Wisconsin, should be a good battle. Wisconsin in the varsity 8 won by about 2 seconds, 2.5 seconds. 2V should be a good battle as well between those schools. But again, that certainly others who are quite competitive. You saw Indiana and Syracuse right in there in the last heat of the 2V, even though they may have been not the top seed in that race, certainly competed all the way through there. Also saw with Tennessee, certainly in there the first, let's say 1250, maybe faded just a tiny bit, but showed competitiveness there. So waiting to get a start here in the last heat of the second varsity 8 before we switch to the varsity 4s. So lined up, probably polling the crews right now.
So for our viewers at home, you'll notice that the boats are different colors. These are different brands of boats. There's different makes and models, just like cars. And there's each boat has kind of different attributes, and each boat manufacturer has kind of different things that they go for. But it's interesting to see which teams row in which shells.
So we should have this any second here. And just while it's starting, we're finally getting times from that first heat of the second varsity 8. Ohio State won in 625.4. Duke was second, 628.8. Washington State was third in 630.3. Oklahoma was fourth in 632.4. Cornell was fifth in 637.2. Penn was sixth in 639.6, and Oregon State was seventh in 654.8. So Ohio State's second varsity only 5 seconds off their first varsity 8.
They're off here.
So it looks like Wisconsin is up by maybe 4 or 5 seats there on. Looks like that's Central Florida maybe there. Actually, maybe Virginia, hard to see there from that buoy, from the bow ball. But Wisconsin up by maybe 4 or 5 seats on Virginia. Virginia, let's say 2 or 3 seats up on. Looks to be over there. Might be a Navy on that far side.
Yeah, Navy.
Fast start from outside lane. So early on, Wisconsin controlling the pace here a bit. Minnesota maybe just off the pace on the near side with that in the He's red and gold. Looks to be Wisconsin now moved out to maybe a 7 to 8 seat lead on Virginia. Virginia now in second. Looking to try to stop their move. Virginia now maybe a couple seats up on Navy on that far side, and then Central Florida on the near side. So Wisconsin, again, fast start early in the varsity 8 heat, as well as in the second varsity 8 off the line. So it looks to be about 8 seats up on Virginia through, maybe 300 meters or so. So Virginia maybe, let's say, 6 seats up on Navy. Navy is a couple seats up on, this would be UCLA over there in the blue and white on the far side. Central Florida here on the near side, a lot going on. And then Louisville over in the middle there. Looks like Wisconsin maybe 8 to 9 seats out, maybe stop the momentum just a little bit there, but certainly 8 to 9 seats up on the lead there. Virginia in second, maybe just, let's say, 8 back, so maybe stop the move a bit. Virginia 8 back, and then again, a lot of teams, a lot of boats there after that. Looks to be maybe Navy, UCLA, Central Florida. So over out there, Navy maybe in third, let's say, maybe 7 seats behind Virginia, and maybe 3 seats up on UCLA. UCLA, a couple seats up on Central Florida, a couple up on Louisville, and then Louisville up on Minnesota there.
Virginia here will look to try and push back into Wisconsin and see if they can make up some of the ground that they lost right in the beginning of the race now that they're in the body, and really go to work here and see what they can do with the middle 1,300 meters of this race.
Looks like they're about 750 in there, and Wisconsin maybe 8 or 9 seats, moved out just a little bit more in Virginia there. So Wisconsin, let's say 9, 10 seats up on Virginia. Virginia's separated out from the rest of the field, so that battle for second, Wisconsin's certainly controlling that right now. Looking back to third, looks like that UCLA maybe has pulled out on Navy a bit for the third place spot. Maybe 850 in here, and looks to be just maybe a length there towards Wisconsin's favor, and then open water back to third, and a good battle for third between Navy, UCLA. Again, Central Florida maybe in 5th, back to Louisville maybe in 6th, and then Minnesota maybe in 7th. But that may be deceiving too. Looks like Minnesota's coming back here just a little bit on I think it's Louisville there.
3rd through 6th appears to be where the battle is taking place currently.
So up there at the front, Wisconsin maybe just about a length up on Virginia. Can angle a little tough to see exactly the number of seats, but separation there, 1st to 2nd, then 2nd to 3rd separation as well. So maybe a full length now in Wisconsin's favor. So open water back to 3rd, and again that's a tight battle between Navy and UCLA. Louisville will try to creep back into that as well, but just about a length in Wisconsin's favor early on. About a half length open water back, well maybe even a length of water open back to 3rd. That tight battle for 3rd between UCLA and Navy. And then again on the near side, tough to tell there with Central Florida and Minnesota. Just past, let's say 1,000, maybe 900 to go for the leaders. A little bit further back for the teams maybe back, but as Megan pointed out, it's even if you're not in the lead there, racing at that point, tough to do maybe mentally, but certainly important for the team. So maybe talk about how you feel when you're not necessarily in the lead, but those places really do matter for everyone.
Yeah, I mean you're in a boat race, and it's more exciting when you're right next to a boat like that. So you'll see 3rd, 4th, and 5th here are pretty tight. It's important for them to continue to push and see who can put their bow ball in front. There's a little bit of a delay or breakup on the screen, but these women are fighting to put their bow ball in front and see if they can come away with a better placing and continue to push towards the pack leaders.
So it looks like Wisconsin's opened up even more water, maybe half length of water up on Virginia. Virginia in 2nd, clearly 2nd, but Wisconsin pulling away here. Looks to be in the last maybe 400 or so for the leaders there. Tough to tell behind that with the angles, but certainly a good battle with all 5 of those crews really behind the 2 leaders. Wisconsin clearly in front, Virginia clearly in 2nd, and then everyone else in a pack there. That 3rd place boat will matter as they start looking ahead for again where places fall for what finals. There are 3 finals tomorrow, A, B, and C, based on your qualification here today. So Wisconsin open water up in Virginia, Virginia open water up on the field. Looks like UCLA may be in 2nd there, in 3rd. UCLA looks to be maybe tight there, just ahead of Navy. Again, tough to see with Central Florida and Minnesota on the near side. But Wisconsin open water up on Virginia as we head into the last 200 or so. So looks like wind's picking up just a little bit there, and again, times may be tough to compare with some of the previous heats there. But Wisconsin, let's say quarter length open water on Virginia. Virginia's second, maybe.
Just maybe open on.
Yeah, I think it might be
It's
a bit
hard for
deceiving
me to
there.
tell at this angle.
But maybe a quarter length open on those guys. And then looks like UCLA likely in third there, going to last again 50, 60 meters here. So Wisconsin just about a quarter length water up on Virginia. So each length's about 3 seconds, and should get clear finish here in a moment. So Wisconsin just across the finish line, looks to be right about here, and then about 4 or 5 seconds back to Virginia there in second, and then maybe another length and a half of water. Certainly good separation from second to third. UCLA in third, but really tight there. Gosh, looks like UCF, Minnesota was looks like fourth, and Navy, and then Louisville maybe in sixth there. While they all came through, we can give you times from the second heat of the 2V. Texas winning in 6:24.2, Syracuse 6:30.2, so 6-second gap first to second. Indiana 6:30.7, Tennessee 6:37.2, Gonzaga 6:41, Columbia 6:44, and Clemson 6:47. So Texas looked to have the fastest time of the 2V heats with 6:24. Their varsity was 6:17, so not far off that. Ohio State the second fastest time. So Wisconsin, Texas, Ohio State all won their 3 heats. So looks like in the third heat, Wisconsin was 6:29, Virginia 6:34. So 5 seconds between them. Third looks to have been UCLA 6:43.9. Fourth, real close here, but looks to be Central Florida 6:45.2. Minnesota fifth in 6:45.5. Navy 6:45.7. Louisville 6:52. So you had 0.5 seconds between fourth to sixth in that last race. So
yeah, that was they were going to be fighting for those spots to get the points for going into tomorrow's racing.
Yeah, it's interesting because you could win by 10 seconds or win by 0.1. It's the same point.
It's the same. Exactly. It's a win's a win.
You know, it's like the medal changes, but
yeah,
it
exactly.
could be really close. So now we switch to the varsity fours here. So these boats have 4 plus a coxswain versus 8 plus a coxswain. And so a little bit slower, about a minute, let's say 50 seconds to a minute slower, but certainly no less important for these guys. And it's always fun to have tight fours racing. That first heat coming down here. So looks like here we'll set this up for you. The Cornell lane 0, Penn lane 1, Duke lane 2, Ohio State lane 3, Washington State lane 4, Oklahoma lane 5, Oregon State lane 6. Texas certainly love to have win all 3 of their races if they can this morning.
Typically, the smaller boats, there's smaller room for error. You really want to be synchronized in all of your movements here in a boat with 4 people versus 8. You can get away with a little bit more not being together in the 8, but in a smaller boat, you really want to make sure that you're really in tune with moving with the person in front of you and synchronized with them.
Yeah, I think that's an important point, that you can be a little more disruptive in a 4, but you also can add a lot of value in a 4.
Exactly.
Just rough fun for these guys. So just here in the first heat, looks like Ohio State maybe a couple seats up over there, over on Duke, maybe a seat or two up. Ohio State over, actually might even be over there. Looks like that might be Cornell, also close up there, as well as Oklahoma. So lanes 0, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 5, all tight there. Maybe Washington State just off the pack, but we saw Washington State come back in some other races, so maybe a little bit slower starting than some of the other teams there. Oregon State also in that mix there, and maybe Oklahoma just falling a bit off the pace. Ohio State now maybe 2 seats up on, let's say, it looks like to be Duke, and then Oklahoma, maybe just a seat behind that, but close for that second, Duke and Oklahoma. Also on the outside, looks like Penn's right in that mix with Cornell, so those two seem to battle lane 0 and 1 in all these races.
One of the, aside from the number of rowers in the boat, you'll notice the difference. The coxswain sits in a different position in the boat rather than sitting in the back of the boat. The coxswain here in the 4 sits in the front, and so she has an unobstructed view of what's going on in front of her, which is kind of an interesting perspective.
Yeah, it certainly changes if the coxswain can't see what's going on, whereas in Nate they can see what's going on. So different game for them, and it certainly takes a different skill set. Ohio State now looks to be about 3/4 of a length up on looks to be Duke in second, and then tight battle for third there between lanes 0, 1, and 5. So between Cornell, Penn, and Oklahoma. Good battle there for third, fourth, fifth. and then Washington State looks to be in 6th, Oregon State in 7th at this time. Duke maybe just pulling out on Oklahoma a bit. Certainly also looks like Penn is starting to move a little bit in Oklahoma as well, so that far side continuing to push. Ohio State trying to get a full length here if they can. Looks to be maybe 800 into the race, and Ohio State would like to get a full length before they get to that 1,000-meter mark. So Duke's still in 2nd here, maybe just under a length behind Ohio State, and trying to push out on looks like Penn now has moved out on Cornell. So Penn in 3rd, Oklahoma also close with Cornell for 4th, and Washington State starting to come back here. Again, slow starts in the other races, but they've been coming back each race in to be competitive here. So 3rd would certainly help, if not 2nd for that matter. Maybe you can come out to 1st. Ohio State kind of sitting here just about a length up.
A little bit lower of a stroke rate in the 4s, which is pretty, I would say, pretty typical, wouldn't you, Steve? To the smaller boat, you're going to be a little bit lower than in the 8.
Yeah, probably a beat or 2 below.
Yeah.
It's just because it's a little bit longer race, just a little bit slower, but not much.
Yeah, it's only a beat or 2. These crews are somewhere between 34 and 36 right now through the body of the piece.
Looks like Washington State now is pulled into 5th, so they were kind of maybe even 7th off the line, 6th off the line. Looks like they've moved through Cornell here into that 5th spot and trying to close the gap in Oklahoma to 4th. If they can get a shot there, maybe catch Duke there at the end for them. But Duke's certainly holding on to that 2nd spot and doing well right now, staying in distance to Ohio State. So Ohio State in the camera here looks to be, we're probably about just over 1,000-meter mark, and Ohio State just about a length over Duke. Duke just about maybe a length there over 3rd place as well.
With the longer race, it does give the teams more time to make different moves and to have lead changes. You're looking at times that are going to be significantly longer than in an 8s race, which tends to go by pretty quickly. So there's more time for the lead to change and different crews to kind of execute a race plan that will move them comparatively to the other boats in the race.
So you see Oklahoma hanging in there well there. Oklahoma looks to be in 3rd, very close with Penn. Washington State just past Cornell, but certainly that mix from 3rd to 6th is a good battle there with Oregon State just off the pace in 7th. So it's 3rd to 6th there between Cornell, Penn, Washington State, and Oklahoma. That battle is going to be key to everyone progresses for tomorrow morning. Ohio State clearly 1st, Duke clearly 2nd at this point, and then a tight battle if they can race each other to get back into the mix. See Duke clearly out there in 2nd, and in Oklahoma. Again, the vantage point's a little bit interesting to see, but Oklahoma and Penn very tight. Washington State maybe 3/4 of a length off that battle for 3rd, maybe half a length up on Cornell in that 5th, 6th spot. That camera shot's showing you that buoy's the last 500 meters, which is about, say, minute 45, minute 50 to go in 4s races before the finish.
From a mental perspective, it's very hard when you're in a position where you're not next to another boat and you have open water either up or down on another boat to continue to push, either to move closer towards the lead or to push away from the boats that are behind you. It can be you can tend to be complacent. It's a little bit easier to be comfortable where you are seated. So it's fun to watch these girls push to try to continue to move and make gains on the other boats that are out there.
So Ohio State clearly in the lead, Duke clearly in 2nd, and looks to be shaping up again. That good battle for 3rd through 6th. Washington State continuing to move on the field, kind of coming back from 6th to maybe battling for 4th, 5th. But Oklahoma stayed in there at 3rd for certainly the last 500 meters or so. Oklahoma's held their own and trying not to let some maybe in the 2nd varsity 8. Oklahoma wants to hold their own there. So again, Ohio State open water up on Duke. Duke open water up on that pack of 4 for that 3rd place spot. Again, a little deceiving to see here, but
looks like they're just entering the red buoys here, maybe.
Yeah, last 250 or so for these guys, and you could tell again 1st and 2nd pretty obvious, but beyond that, looks to be Penn certainly up on Cornell. The other 2 boats aren't in the screen yet, but they're certainly competitive and maybe ahead. They certainly were earlier. Looks like Ohio State had something of a digger there. They're not in danger just because they're so far up, but that certainly cost them 3 or 4 seconds there. And when I say digger, just got their oar caught there a bit, and that happens.
Yeah,
but
it gets sucked underwater. I mean, you're moving pretty quickly, and if you don't put that blade in completely on the square, it'll get sucked under.
Yeah, and that's where these early races are good to kind of get those jitters out of the way, and didn't impact in placing, but they certainly would rather not have that than to have it. So Ohio State coming through the last couple strokes here, clearly ahead. let's say a good length of water up, and then Duke about a length of water behind. Duke clearly in second, and then we'll see for third. Looks like that's Oklahoma has held on to that third spot. Washington State in fourth. Looks like they came through the Ivies there with Penn in fifth, Cornell sixth, and that'll put Oregon State in seventh here. So good battle there, first to seventh. We'll start setting up the second heat here before giving you some times. So next heat will be Clemson in lane 0, Gonzaga lane 1, as Oregon State comes through there. Indiana lane 2, Texas lane 3, Syracuse lane 4, Tennessee lane 5, Columbia lane 6 for the second heat of the varsity 4. So Ohio State led wire to wire there, as they did in the 2V, and Texas led wire to wire in the 1v2v as well. We'll look to do that, replicate that in the 4.
Second heat appears to be off the line cleanly.
And just times from the first heat while we wait for them to get to our vantage point. Ohio State 7:10.7, pretty quick time for a 4. Duke 7:16, Oklahoma 7:19, Washington State 7:22, Penn 7:25, Cornell was 7:28.
So these are well over a minute behind the 8 times. So these girls are out there pulling for a significantly longer period of time, which just prolongs the pain they might be feeling as they go down the course.
In order to say just the 7th place was 7:41 there. So now Texas here just about a length early. So Texas in the lead, and then there looks to be about at least 4 boats there for second, all within a bow ball. So Texas opening up right away just to set the tone in this race and make it clear they want to win all 3 events. It looks like Clemson may be in second there, early going, but you also have out here lanes 5 and 6. Tough to see before, but with the angle, they're right in the mix as well. So let's say Clemson in second, maybe Tennessee just off the pace slightly, but Clemson right in their second again. You see the bow balls stroke for stroke there for really 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th.
Texas has moved away here, so it looks like the battle is pretty tight. Second, 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Yeah, at this point in the race, for Texas to see that, they certainly want to match the Ohio State time from the first race. They don't know it, but they certainly want to go after it. And then really, even Tennessee, who's a couple seats off, is in that mix for 2nd through 7th. So no one's fallen off the pace yet at all.
The race is shaping up behind them nicely.
So Texas has the advantage now to be able to watch this and just kind of just relax and cruise and feel confident what they're doing, as there's a cluster behind them of 6 boats with no one off the pace. Certainly, lane 4 maybe is gained a seat or 2 there. Syracuse maybe a seat or 2. Clemson still in there. Indiana right there. Gonzaga not far off. Columbia on the near side, so too close to call with everyone there. And Tennessee within 2 seats. They may be slightly off the pace, but not far off by any stretch of it. So you see on the near side, that's Columbia there on the near side with the bow ball 6. And then over on that far side, again, Clemson holding their own, as well as Syracuse in the middle of the screen when we get pan back to it.
Texas making quite the statement here in this race, continuing to move away from the rest of the field and watch the race unfold behind them.
So you see over there, really anyone,
wow,
every different boat's up there. So lane 1 looks to be creeping out a bit. Gonzaga now, we haven't talked about them much, but their force doing well. Syracuse
right
been
there
consistent.
in it,
Clemson maybe falling back just a little bit. Columbia right there. Indiana right there. And Tennessee maybe a couple seats off, but they haven't fallen off. I mean, they certainly could have more than enough time to stay in this.
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, it's a much longer race, so there's plenty of time to have lead changes and push for different positioning here. And these girls are all very aware, I'm sure, of how close everything is, and their coxswain is able to tell them just where they're at and if they're moving on the boat in front of them or next to them.
It looks like lane 6, Columbia staying right in that pace. Maybe Syracuse and Columbia inching out just a bit over Indiana, Gonzaga, and Clemson, but not by significant margins. Certainly too early to call anything other than Texas, who is significantly ahead of the field here, and this is a great position to be in.
Yeah, moving very well together.
Gonzaga still staying in there from lane 1. Clemson's maybe falling off the pace just a little bit, but you can see there in the near shot with Syracuse in lane 4, Syracuse and then Columbia on the near side, lane 6 outside the picture. There we go. Those two probably battling out maybe 2 to 3 seats up on the field for 2nd and 3rd, and then Tennessee's maybe crept back into that race for 4th, 5th, and 6th. Tennessee holding They were off the pace by a couple seats earlier, but they stayed right in there, and now certainly moved into 6th in the battle for 4th, 5th. Looks like Columbia and Syracuse are going to battle that out for 2nd, which is key for both those teams. Maybe even more so for Syracuse with their varsity being 3rd, the 2V were 2nd earlier on.
Looks like we must be approaching the 1,000 based on the breakup in the feed.
So here, you see a still shot here. It's actually
yeah,
an
that's a
interesting
great
spot.
still shot. That was right at the catch there, Steve. That was awesome to see.
So Columbia here still on this near side, certainly pushing for that 2nd spot with Syracuse. Tennessee maybe falling just a little bit back here, certainly still ahead. They've moved past Clemson there. But over on that far side, Gonzaga and Indiana have been in this mix the whole time, and we haven't talked about them as much just because it's a little tougher to see them. But they're in that battle for 4th, 5th, and certainly not out of the picture for 2nd, 3rd.
Looks like this is Columbia here in lane 6, and Syracuse are battling and have maybe just pushed out to battle for 2nd here.
Yeah, Columbia looks to be in 2nd by maybe a seat,
yeah.
And then Syracuse maybe 2 to 3 seats up on that battle for 4th, 5th.
There's Texas.
Yeah, Texas maybe, gosh, several lengths up here at under 500 to go. They'll come to the screen here fairly quickly. There comes Texas in the middle there, and the burnt orange is their color.
Yes.
And then looks to be
I believe
over
it's
there.
burnt orange is the technical term for it.
So over there, Gonzaga over there in lane 1 looks to be in that 4th position. Certainly battling close with Indiana for that 4th, 5th spot. Again, you don't see Syracuse and Columbia, but they are also in the mix. They'll come into the screen here momentarily. Again, deceiving Texas up by several lengths there. It looks closer than it is, but they're up by probably 3 to 4 lengths as we come into the last 250.
Wisco and Clemson, it looks like. Back Wisco in the yellow boat. Correct.
Such Indiana.
Indiana.
There. Yeah, Indiana in the middle there. So Texas now in the last 200, everyone else is entering kind of last 250 or so. So that's a pretty good size margin at the 4 level. Texas in the last 150 or so. And again, we'll start seeing these other guys come in into the picture. That battle for 2nd between Columbia and Syracuse. Tough for us to see here to call that, but that battle's key to who moves forward. Gets an extra point for the qualification.
Texas ahead comfortably here.
Yeah, Texas clearly all 3 boats sweeping this morning, winning the 1V, the 2V, and the 4, which is huge. Saw that with Ohio State and Wisconsin trying to pull that as well for the in the 3rd heat coming up. So Texas certainly in the last few years has improved themselves and likely to make waves in NCAAs this year along with Ohio State. So you see the spread there from 1st to 2nd, a large margin there. Looks like lane 6 there comes in the screen. Columbia will be 2nd. Looks to be actually that Gonzaga came through there, and Syracuse, Tennessee, and then which may have been off there. Yeah, Indiana in there, and then Clemson as well. So we'll get you once we get the official times here that happen bang bang on the camera.
And then Clemson coming across the line.
So we'll set you up for this 3rd heat, and then again get you the times. Lane 0, Navy. Lane 1, UCLA. Lane 2, Louisville. Lane 3, Virginia. Lane 4, Wisconsin. Lane 5, Central Florida. Lane 6, Minnesota. Texas winning that last heat in 7:20.3, so almost identical to Ohio State's time. Texas being about 0.4 faster. Columbia 2nd, 7:21, 7:21.1. Gonzaga 3rd, 7:23.1. Syracuse 4th, and 7:24.6. So Gonzaga made a charge there towards the end. Looks like Tennessee was 5th and 7:25.8. Indiana 6th, 7:26.2. And then Clemson in 7th here. Can get to the time in a moment. So we have a start here in the 3rd heat of the varsity 4. Off the line, it looks to be over there Wisconsin again, just like in the 1V and 2V, coming off the line, fired up, and a couple seats up there. Looks to be a battle for 2nd between Louisville, Virginia, and Minnesota over here on the near side for that 2nd place. Virginia may be half seat up on Louisville, but way too early to call that.
The middle of our screen here.
Looks like UCLA is also in that mix as well. Looks like actually now Louisville may be moving out on Virginia a bit for that 2nd spot. Just to recap the last race, 7:10 for Texas, 7:21 for Columbia, 7:23 for Gonzaga, 7:24 for Syracuse, 7:25 for Tennessee, 7:26 Indiana, 7:38 for Clemson. So now, good battle for second there. Wisconsin's kind of edged out for that lead, maybe 5 seats or so, and very close between Louisville and Virginia for that second spot. Maybe a seat towards Louisville's advantage for second. And then on the near side, looks like lane 6 there, Minnesota looks to be in maybe in 4th, but also on that far side, UCLA certainly right in that mix there too. Virginia, Louisville battling it out for second. Louisville may have still about a seat edge over Virginia right now for second. Back to lane 6, Minnesota looks to be 4th, and Central Florida and UCLA, those 3 boats very close. Virginia may be edging back on Louisville just slightly. Wisconsin, though, still a good 5-6 seat lead here. Virginia and Louisville battling out for second.
Those second place crews aren't letting them get away, though. That's great. They're still pushing into them. Their coxswain will be telling them that they still have contact with that lead crew, and that's what they want to try and maintain and start to go away and chip at the lead that they have.
And back to 4th, looks like might be UCLA in 4th, and then back to Minnesota for 5th. Virginia maybe just moving a seat or so on Louisville, trying to stop Wisconsin's move there. So Wisconsin's got still 5 or 6, kind of sat tight the last 200 meters.
Virginia might be moving back into Wisconsin.
And with Louisville going with them as well, so it's always key when the second and third kind of move together.
Yeah.
Helps keep that push going
Yeah.
Against the leader. But Louisville not giving up an inch. They're still right with Virginia there, depending on that angle.
All of the other heats showed a pretty tight race between 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, so it's looking like some tight racing across the board here.
So back to 4th, looks like Minnesota's maybe a seat up on UCLA. There's maybe a seat up on Central Florida for 4th, 5th, 6th. And back over to lane 1. Navy's still in this mix as well, and Navy's certainly not out of it by any stretch. Looks like Virginia's moved now 4 or 5 seats on Louisville there. Hasn't really moved into the Wisconsin lead, maybe a seat or so. So let's say they're 4.5, 5 seats behind Wisconsin, but they have moved out on Louisville here for that second spot.
It'll be interesting to see if they continue to push away together or what happens, how it starts to shake out as we get towards the middle of this race.
And then again, 4th, Minnesota have been holding that, but tight race between 4th, 5th, 6th, between Minnesota, UCLA, and Central Florida at that 4, 5, 6 spot. So if those guys can compete and push back into the 3rd spot with Louisville, Virginia seems to be staying with Wisconsin there. Louisville may be falling off the pace just a bit, but Wisconsin's still clear leaders here as we pass the 1,000-meter mark. Wisconsin may be looks to be 5, 6 seats up on Virginia. Wisconsin got the lead early and then kind of has been sitting on it a bit. And Virginia, looks like Louisville maybe fell back a bit. Virginia's maybe staying the same speed as they had once they got going. So Louisville maybe just about 3/4 of a length up on that 4th place boat. Minnesota, and then again UCLA tight for that 4th, 5th spot.
Again, if you look at the screens paused here, the Virginia, the gray boat in the center of your screen, that's what we call the catch position. They have just put their blades in the water and are about to suspend their weight off the handle here.
So you see that shot, it's an interesting shot where you're just under a length between 1st and 2nd, just under a length from 2nd to 3rd, and then really just a length from 3rd to 4th at that time. So as we come back to it, as the camera's kind of picking up from the distance here, you see there Louisville in the far right of the screen, and then UCLA on the middle of the screen. That's just about a length between them. And again, that deceiving angle is that you then have Minnesota on the near side that certainly in that mix as well. So Wisconsin just about a length up on Virginia here. Again, that angle is coming from the rear's post ahead of you, but just about a length there for Wisconsin. So looking to sweep all 3 of their races this morning to match Texas and Ohio State.
About to see them enter the last 500 here. Looks like the wind's still holding off, which is nice. A little breezy, but it's nothing unmanageable. I've seen worse.
And this is the last heat of the 4s of the NCAA qualification event. So this certainly gives a bit of a vantage point for where the rest of the spring may head for some of these teams. Again, right here you see looks to be Louisville there on the 3rd place, Virginia in 2nd there, and then UCLA, Minnesota battling for 4th. So Wisconsin, that's Louisville coming to the screen there, Virginia next to them on the left, Wisconsin will come into the screen here in a second on the left.
This angle is deceiving. It appears as if they're all 5 boats across right here, but as we back out, we'll see that the separation again.
Yeah, and from here you see Wisconsin still in 1st. A little bit tough to tell if you're a novice viewer, but Wisconsin in 1st, Virginia still in 2nd, and then looks to be Louisville still ahead of those far boats, UCLA and Navy. What you can't see is lane 5 and 6, Central Florida, Minnesota. We know Minnesota was right in the mix through the early portions of the race. Now in the last, let's say, 2:20 or so, Wisconsin clearly in first, Virginia clearly in second. So Wisconsin should finish up that sweep of the morning events for them. Virginia in second there, just about a length behind, and then looks to be Louisville still in third, holding off UCLA, and then again Minnesota. Tough to tell from here, but Minnesota likely still in that mix. Certainly when we last saw the camera shot, they were right there. So just about a length here, Wisconsin over Virginia. So Wisconsin's eked out a couple more seats since we last saw a level shot there. Virginia just about a length up on Louisville still. So Wisconsin trying to match the 7:10 from the first two heats that both Texas and Ohio State put down. So they'll race all the way through the line just to match that time.
See the number they can put up, yeah.
So Wisconsin now through, and now just about a half length of water back to Virginia. And Virginia just about maybe a quarter length of water back to Louisville. And this may be bang bang for the last couple spots here.
Yeah, this is
probably Minnesota, UCLA.
Yeah, it looks like Minnesota got it.
And then Central Florida, and then the Navy there. So really tight. We'll get these times as quick as we can. It looks like Minnesota got that spot for third. I'm sorry, for fourth behind Louisville. So you see that just as gassed here are the athletes coming after that race, maybe more so in some ways.
It's a longer race. You feel that extra minute and change, that's for sure.
And you see a lot of times the leader are almost less exhausted than some of the other boats. As the leaders maybe a little more excited about their success there.
Based on my racing experience, it always hurts it hurts a little bit less when you come away with a win than not.
So now we'll enter the second varsity four. So many teams, certainly depth-wise, have a couple fours and maybe more, depending on how far they traveled, how many athletes to bring. So lane 1 of the second varsity four will be Tennessee's B entry, which really is their third four, but racing in the second four event. Navy, lane 1, Louisville lane 2, Ohio State lane 3, Duke will be lane 4, Penn lane 5, Cornell lane 6. For the first heat of the second four. And again, we'll have three heats here. Same progression system for tomorrow, but this is many times a little bit younger athletes or ones with a little less experience, but certainly no less exciting for them to race.
Well, I would say maybe might even be slightly more exciting, because I bet a lot of these girls, this is only the first few times they've ever raced in an event like this before, so it's probably pretty exciting for them to get out there on the water and get to do what they've been training for.
Yeah, so as you point out, a 7-boat race to have for the first time, it's a little bit.
There's a lot of
crazy.
stimulation. There's a lot going on out there. It's very important to stay focused on what's going on in your boat and listen to your coxswain.
So just waiting for a start here in the first heat of the second four. Times from the third heat of the first varsity for Wisconsin was 7:06.5. Wow. So fastest time of the day came in that third heat. Virginia 7:11, so actually had the fourth fastest time, but second in that heat. Louisville third, 7:15, which actually was the fourth fastest time. So you had the first, fourth, and fifth times all came out of that third heat. Minnesota fourth and 7:20.2. UCLA fifth and 7:20.3. Central Florida sixth and 7:21.6. Navy seventh and 7:26.6. So that was certainly the fastest of the three heats for the four, and was the 2V. It was actually the slowest heat. So looks like the fours. Good speed there in that third heat.
Our 2v4s are off the line now, jockeying for position.
So come up out of the breakage zone, which if something breaks in that first set of red buoys, they would restart the race. It becomes official as they come out of there. Looks to be, let's see, as they kind of get to the parallel. Looks to be maybe on the near side, Penn certainly holding their own, and then also Louisville and Ohio State. Maybe Ohio State just half seat up on Louisville, and then Penn on the near side looks to be where the speed's coming from to start the race. Cornell might be slightly off the pace there on the near side, but Ohio State looking to separate out. And then haven't spoken about Tennessee, their B entry or Navy, but they've had fast starts so far this morning, and certainly in the mix early. So through 250, looks like Ohio State maybe a seat up on Louisville. Louisville was third in the varsity four, so the four certainly seem to be doing well early morning today. But Ohio State maybe now let's say seat and a half, 2 seats up now on Louisville. Louisville, let's say about 4 seats up on next to be Navy, Penn, and Duke in there as well. So as we get moving here through, trying to get the first 500, and these guys will also try to match their times with the first varsity 4. A lot of times coaches still trying to figure out who sits where, and this is a chance for the second varsity 4 to prove that they should be in an NCAA boat. So Ohio State's starting to lengthen their lead now. Let's say 4 to 5 seats up on Louisville. Louisville up on pretty good battle there again. Looks like Navy
Penn.
Maybe. Well, Navy over in that far side, lane 1, looks to be in 3rd, I think. But you're absolutely right. Penn and Duke.
Yeah, Penn and
for
Duke
4th.
look like they're battling it out over on the near side.
So strategy really is similar in this race, where if you can get out a little bit and feel good about it, put yourself in a good spot, and then behind you, if you can keep the chaos at bay, it certainly makes it easier for you to race. So maybe Cornell is the only one off the pace here a bit, but as we enter, probably 600 in or so,
Yeah.
it's maybe 650, and Ohio State trying to get that full length, and Louisville trying to separate out from that pack of 3, 4, 5 between Navy and Duke, Penn. Tennessee B we haven't spoken about, but they're certainly also in the mix. It's tough to see on that far side, but they're right there as well.
Yeah, these women, like you mentioned, are they're out there to prove something. You know, they want especially in college racing. There's not a lot of comfort in your seat. You should never take comfort in where you are. You can always kind of move around between boat to boat. So these girls in the second varsity 4 are looking to kind of put their mark out there and be like, hey, I want a shot at getting into that first varsity 4 or even the second varsity 8, and just by producing a positive result with their racing here.
It looks like just while we were talking there, Duke has pulled into 3rd, separated themselves out from Navy there on the far side and Penn on the near side. So it looks like just open water from Ohio State to Louisville. Louisville just open water over Duke, and Duke trying to get open water over Navy and Penn. Back to the far side, Tennessee B. Actually, it looks like Cornell now may have moved up on Tennessee B for that 6th spot. So Ohio State clearly separated out, coming up to about the 1,000 right now. You look to see if Duke can push into Louisville's lead from the second half of the race.
Steve, do you think it's any of these women's first 2K, or do you think they've raced all of them have raced previously?
Well, I can confidently say that they've done 2Ks on the erg.
Yes, that's probably true.
On the water, it depends. A lot of times to bring teams across country, may not bring everyone. So Duke certainly scrimmaged Virginia a couple weeks ago, so those guys I think had an opportunity to. Louisville had the Cardinal invite, so those guys probably had a good opportunity to race. Ohio State has had a number of scrimmages and races throughout, so some of those lead boats I think have had opportunities that I'm aware of. It kind of depends, I think, where you are in the country and how early you get on the water.
Right.
Cornell maybe so a little less time, depending on their weather.
Yeah, well, I'm based in just about 45 minutes east of Ithaca, and we had a long winter. I can attest to. Those Cornell coaches were out there breaking ice in middle end of March, so.
Which might be earlier than some years.
Yeah, exactly.
Wisconsin sometimes gets in the water in April, so Wisconsin's doing well now, as they showed in the first 3 heats. That usually bodes well for them later on.
Yeah.
So here, just you see in the picture here for looks like well, cut out there for a moment, but looks to be that picture for kind of 4th, 5th. Again, this camera shot looks to be the last 500 or so is where we're trying to get that shot. Duke there, I think still in 3rd, Navy in 4th, Penn in 5th for that shot. This is Duke trying to come back on Louisville here from this angle. Again, a little bit deceiving, but coming back certainly closed the gap. Ohio State several lengths of water out on the field, and Louisville over there in lane 2, that far side, let's say 3/4 of the length to length up on Duke, but Duke has narrowed the margin throughout this last 500 meters or so. So Duke trying to get that 3rd spot, trying to get that 2nd spot to help for points. Back here you're seeing Penn has taken the lead over Navy for that 4th, 5th spot. So Ohio State coming into the last, let's say, 400 or so. Ohio State clear open water. Louisville over there, you see in lane 2. The Navy just behind them there. But again, Duke, you're not seeing who is on the near side of the shot. Will come in here as the camera pans. Duke's closer than that appears based on the angle. But Duke trying to come back there. That battle for 2nd Louisville still has that edge there, but Duke trying to narrow that. Ohio State in the lead here, last 250. Open water again, now going for time to make sure they can match up with their varsity fours.
Yeah, quite a bit of separation here in this race, you may notice. I bet a lot of that has to do with experience between the women in these boats.
Ohio State's certainly one of the deeper teams, as you point out, by winning multiple national championships here. They've got experience and athletes who are trying motivated to get back in to give them a shot again.
Yeah.
So Ohio State, let's say 4 lengths open water between themselves and that battle for second. And so we probably won't see that the 2nd through 7th boats here for a moment as they kind of stay on the leaders to get to the finish line. And again, Ohio State trying to race that time. Their first 4 put up a 7:10, so as close as they can get to that. Looks like a slight tailwind, so pretty good times here this morning.
Yeah, they're going all the way across the line here. That's great. They want to put up a time that is comparable to the other ones.
So you can see how much of a space there. It looks like Duke did overtake Louisville there for that second spot. Through second, Duke. So Duke really rode Louisville down there with a great race by Duke. Louisville in third. Certainly was in that picture early, and then to be fair to them, certainly held off everyone else there. Penn looks to be coming in 4th there. Navy 5th after that quick start. Stayed in there, and then looks like 6th would be Cornell. And then I believe Tennessee's B entry, who those guys may have been one of their first races for Tennessee B with some of the younger guys in there.
Nothing quite like experiencing the 2K pain for the first time.
So Tennessee B entry through here at the finish line, and that 7th place there for second varsity 4. So the second heat of the 2v4, this will be...
See what the times are.
Yeah, second, this will be a 6-boat race for the second heat of the 2v4. It'll be Tennessee A, Gonzaga in lane 2, Texas lane 3, Syracuse lane 4, UCF lane 5, Clemson lane 6.
They're off already, so they're into their first 100 meters of the race, the breakage zone here. Like Steve mentioned previously, if something goes wrong in that first 100 meters, you can, if you break an oar or if your foot stretcher breaks or something, they will restart the race. But they're just leaving that breakage zone here and seeing how the beginning 250 starts to shake out with these crews. We'll keep you updated once the times come in for that last heat of the second varsity 4. Again, this race is Tennessee, Gonzaga, Texas, Syracuse, University of Central Florida, and Clemson. You'll see there's a tight battle between 5 of the 6 teams here currently. Maybe that lead boat is just pushing out to a solid lead here over 2nd through 6th place.
So Texas clearly there in the lead there, open water early as we expected, considering their top 3, their 1v, 2v, and 4. Looks to be is at lane 5 there, Central Florida, their A entry.
Yep.
And second, squeezing out there over Syracuse, Clemson, tight there, and then Gonzaga and Tennessee's A entry right in there as well. So I think you mentioned there a good battle there, 2nd to 6th. Everyone's still in that mix early on. Looks to be, gosh, just tight there.
Yeah.
So about about 600 in for Texas.
Yeah.
So times from the first heat there, Ohio State was 7:09. So actually beat their first varsity 4 times. So certainly would have put them in the mix with any of the 4s from the first from the 1v4. Duke was 2nd in 7:20.9. So only 4 seconds off there for, again, winds may have shifted just a little bit, but even so, impressive times for this heat. Louisville was 7:24.8 in 3rd. Penn was 7:33.6 in 4th. Navy was 5th in 7:37.1. Cornell was 6th in 7:40.8. Tennessee B was 7th in 7:56. So fast heat there for the first heat of the second varsity 4.
Yeah, you mentioned that Ohio State, that 4 just eked out their first 4's time. I also think it's important to note the difference in the spread between first and second. The fact that they were able to continue pushing even though they were that far ahead is says a lot about the women in that boat and their drive to race.
So now, with regards to drive to race, Texas up by 4 or 5 lengths of water in the first 1,000. So first 850 or so. Texas just dominating this race. Looks like it's second. Looks like when we panned over that Syracuse was in second there, had moved up on UCF, Central Florida, but Texas just absolutely showing their depth here and the progress they've made. Looks to be Syracuse there second, and then a tight battle, I think, between Gonzaga there over in lane 2, and Central Florida. Actually, excuse me, between Clemson. I apologize. Clemson over here on the near side. So Syracuse in second, let's say 3 to 4 seats up, very close between Clemson and Gonzaga for third, fourth, and then a good battle between Tennessee's A-Boat and Central Florida for that 5th, 6th spot. So Syracuse also they were 4th in the first 4 in their heat, and Gonzaga was 3rd. So you expect that to be a pretty good battle there between those guys. Central Florida's trying to stay in there, but Clemson, you know, and when you're at your home course, you have a little bit of an advantage there to know what you're facing, know where you are on the course, and Clemson doing their part right now in the near lane 6. You see the numbers on the boat. That obviously is to demarcate the lane, so easier for fans to know what's going on, but also for the athletes to see what bow marker when they look quickly on who's where.
Clemson right in there with
Gonzaga's over there in lane 2, that far side, so that's a tight battle for 4th. So Syracuse still in that second spot, and Texas haven't really shown just because they're so far out, but 2, 3, 4, good battle there, and looks like Tennessee A has maybe moved out in Central Florida for that 5th spot. So here, Syracuse may be moving out just a bit more on Gonzaga there. Gonzaga moving maybe just a bit on Clemson through this part of the race. Again, maybe about 1,200 in or so at this point. And Syracuse continuing to eke away to make that second place clear, and then third, fourth.
Third, fourth, fifth.
Yeah, third, fourth, pretty tight between Gonzaga and Clemson. Gonzaga maybe has a seat or two on Clemson, but not much between them. Syracuse starting to inch away there. Let's say 4-seat lead from second to third. Texas still multiple lengths out on the field. You start to see them here as they pan back. Texas, like Ohio State, trying to have that time to compete with their first 4 as well as for this overall race here.
Texas's first 4, just to remind you, went 7:10 in their heat. So we'll see what this 4 puts out.
So it looks like Gonzaga just inching out over Clemson. Let's say 3 or 4 seats now for that 3rd spot. Again, Clemson on the near side here, probably hear their fans before anyone else is. But Texas now in the picture again. That picture does not give justice to the lead that Texas has at this point in the last, let's say, 350 or so. So Texas still, again, likely pushing just to compete with their other boats here, and also against Ohio State's second 4 from the previous heat. So Syracuse in lane 4 behind him, but Gonzaga over there that you see entering the screen. So in that dark blue and white, Gonzaga there. Tennessee also trying to come back from that lane 1 position.
Texas at about 36 strokes a minute here into the last 250. Like you mentioned, looking to put up a good time here. See how they can compare to their other 4.
So Syracuse, they're going to start to come into the screen here in a moment. Syracuse still having that battle there with Gonzaga, and Clemson maybe just off that just a bit, but Syracuse should come in the screen here. There we start to see them, and again that's an angle, but Gonzaga is certainly holding their own right here as well. So Texas here in the last 100 meters or so.
100 meters for us at this point, at this rate, you're looking at 15 strokes probably to the finish line.
So Texas clearly ahead here, and really just battling time at this point. So finishing out last couple strokes, and Texas passes through the finish line right there, and then gosh, I'm guessing 5 or 6 lengths at least back to second, even more. So actually Clemson came back.
Second,
I
third,
apologize
fourth.
they weren't in the screen, and didn't give them due credit. It's like Clemson was second after all that. Gonzaga and Syracuse. So one of the challenges of the broadcasting here is that you don't really see everyone coming through, and so Clemson did a great job there getting to second. Tennessee was 5th there, and Central Florida 6th. So Clemson earlier on was 3rd or 4th, but must have had one heck of a sprint there and did a great job. And Gonzaga as well came through Syracuse. So the second year, the second varsity 4. And then we'll set up for the third heat here. Columbia will be lane 1, UCLA lane 2, Virginia lane 3, Indiana lane 4, Oklahoma lane 5, Central Florida lane 6. So again, 6-boat race. They're off there. This a lot of times you expect the higher seeds in the middle to do well, but not always. And again, Clemson lane 6 showed that they just did a great job there. So coming here to about first 150, 200. And looks like over there on the far side, might be
far two boats, it looks like.
Yeah, Virginia's in the middle on that gray boat, but it looks like on the far side it's UCLA, or actually I think that's Columbia out. No, yeah, it's Columbia out on that far side in lane 1.
Virginia pushing into the lead here by just about a seat or two.
Yeah, Columbia over there, lane 1 in second, and lanes 5, 6, Oklahoma and Central Florida. Central Florida's had fast starts, but they maintains that this time. Oklahoma looks to be in third, and then Indiana there right with Central Florida and UCLA.
Times, we're still waiting on times from that second varsity 4. They just came in.
So it looks like they're Texas winning in 7:15.6, so about 5 seconds off their first 4. Clemson second at 7:28.8. Gonzaga third at 7:28.9. Syracuse 7:29.9. Tennessee 7:36.6. Central Florida in 7:48 or so. So again, quick times between the second 4s and the first 4s. So again, I'm not sure if conditions have changed much. It looks pretty flat where I'm looking at here. I think they're just fast.
Yeah, I agree.
So the third heat of the second 4. So it looks pretty competitive there early on. We saw at the beginning there Virginia maybe taking a couple seats early with Columbia right with them. You can see here Central Florida's B entry maybe just off the pace. Virginia's now has moved out to, let's say, 5, 6 seat lead over Columbia there. Columbia maybe 2 to 3 seats over UCLA, and either Indiana or Oklahoma was back here also in the mix. Those two are pretty competitive there for that spot. So let's put all 4 of those really within a couple seats. So Virginia, let's say 6 seats out on the field, trying to match what Texas and Ohio State did in their heats. Looks to be lane 5 there. Oklahoma in good battle for third, but Indiana right in that mix as well. Central Florida maybe slightly off the pace, but certainly within striking distance still. So over there, Columbia on that far side, still trying to hold that just under a length to Virginia.
Virginia here will want to try and break open. Again, the coxswain being in the front of the boat is not going to be able to see that, so it's going to be up to the rowers to recognize when they have broken open, and Columbia is going to try and hang on, and the Columbian coxswain is going to tell them to try and push back into them to prevent them from getting open water on them. So
yeah, so through here looks to be about maybe 700 or so into it, I think. So again, tight battle there from really, I mean, it's not much more than kind of 4 seats first to, well, 6 seats first to second, and then a couple seats second to, let's say, 5th even. It really is a fairly tight spread there. Columbia over there on that far side of the screen, and Oklahoma on the near side of the screen. That's a good battle. Indiana's still right in the mix, as well as UCLA right in the mix. UCLA maybe falling just slightly behind that pack. Indiana's slightly behind. So really, let's say Columbia and Oklahoma in that battle for second.
Yeah.
As we push forward here to past 1,000.
Oklahoma maybe it's just the angle, but I feel like Oklahoma may be pushing ahead of Columbia just ever so slightly.
So Virginia now open water here, and then again that battle of Columbia and in Oklahoma. It's like Columbia maybe has a seat or two still, but Oklahoma's been moving through, I think, through this portion of the race and closed the gap without a doubt.
My favorite part of the race, the middle part, where you can really break some souls.
So UCLA there in 4th, a couple seats up on Indiana. So Indiana's fallen off just a little bit, but again within striking distance, a length off second for that matter, so not too far off the pace. Oklahoma staying right with Columbia, and as you can tell from this vantage point, you don't really see who makes that move from about 750 to about even 200 or so. That 500 meter stretch is when you really adjust that pace and start to race people. So not too far off there, and from the 2nd to 5th spot. Again, Virginia open water up here, maybe just a quarter length of, maybe half length of water now.
Columbia looking like they pushed a little.
Yeah, Columbia pushed just a bit away. Again, still an angle there, but I'd say maybe 4 or 5 seats to Columbia's favor. Oklahoma maybe another 3 or 4 seats up on UCLA, and UCLA maybe 4 or 5 up on Indiana there as we head into last 500, I believe.
Again, some great still shots here.
The technology has advanced immensely over the last 5 or 10 years. You couldn't even watch a race until
back in my day.
But this wireless technology makes it that you can get most of it, and certainly for fans a chance to see it from wherever you might be.
If you can't get to the course, then you can watch it. It's pretty great that it's streaming live for everyone at home who can't make it out to the races.
So here about let's say 400, 450 to go for the lead boats here. Again, you always see these far lanes come up first just because of the angle. Virginia's still in the lead there. That's Columbia in second on the right of the screen.
Looking like the wind picks up a little bit in these races right in the last 500. Maybe it's a little bit less protected, meaning there's a greater, more open expanse of water that allows the wind to build some more. But so far, all of these women seem to be handling the conditions really well.
So Virginia's still in the lead here. Last 250, those orange buoys will herald the entry to the last 250, and then that battle between Columbia and Oklahoma, we'll see that unfold here just at the last little bit as they come into the screen. But Oklahoma certainly holding their own, Columbia holding their own, UCLA maybe just off that pace there. In fact, now as they pan back, you can see that, although again it's deceiving because of that angle. But it looks to be that Columbia in second here, and then a battle with Oklahoma and UCLA for that third spot. So Virginia just a little bit of open water up last 100 or so as they come through their second four. So last few strokes coming up for these guys. And then Columbia looks to be
just open over
Columbia
over there.
And then on the near side, you're seeing Oklahoma come up here, and that's going to be actually tighter than we realize. So Oklahoma looks to be in second after that in the last couple hundred meters here. So Virginia will win by just a little bit open water. Oklahoma will be in second. Columbia is going to be in third, so a good second half for Oklahoma. Fourth is going to be UCLA, and then fifth will be Indiana there. So and then sixth, Central Florida. So
a couple lead changes there through the middle between Columbia and Oklahoma.
Yeah, a lot of credit to Oklahoma there. Again, they could feel it better than we see it from our vantage point. But Oklahoma, great job second half, staying with it and not getting flustered by maybe a little bit behind there at in the first 1,000. So now we'll turn to the last two races of the morning, the third varsity 8. This is a combined event with novices, so people who just started the sport, as well as people who maybe experienced but third 8. So just maybe people who weren't quite in the fours there. So combination novice and third 8 event. Lane 0 will be Minnesota. Lane 1 Indiana. Lane 2 Virginia. Lane 3 Ohio State. Lane 4 Washington State. Lane 5 Louisville. Lane 6 Clemson. So you'll see these times maybe 15 seconds or so, 20 seconds behind the 2V times, but about 40 seconds ahead of the varsity 4 times coming up.
2 3v8s from Virginia. That's a lot of women.
Yeah, so they have an A and a B here in this event, and certainly a chance for some people to get a race in that maybe don't later on in the year.
That's great. What an opportunity.
So waiting for the times from the third heat of the second varsity 4, and I'm sure that Virginia will try to compete with their first 4 time-wise and see where they stand. Should have started any moment here. Actually, the times from the second, 4, third heat, Virginia 7:25. So first 2 heats are a little bit faster there in the second 4. Oklahoma second in 7:28. Columbia third in 7:31. UCLA fourth in 7:35. Indiana fifth in 7:37. And UCF's B entry in 7:41.
If you're seeing on the screen, you can kind of just see some of the bow seats it looks as if they're rowing. The coxswain is establishing her point here. She wants to get a straight line down the course, so she has to do as little steering as possible. So she'll have her bow seat or her 2 seat take a couple of very light strokes to adjust the point of her bow, so it's where she likes it and where she feels that the boat needs to be to set up evenly in the center of the lane.
Yeah, and so if you talk about, you asked about some people in the first races for coxswains who, I haven't spoken about it much, but they've got a pretty integral part of the race, and they're trying to steer, tell people what's going on, where they need to work on, where everyone is. And at the beginning of the race, it's pretty nerve-wracking for them as they try to make sure as the start happens that they're aligned correctly, have a straight shot, and
lots of responsibility.
Yes, with 7 boats, and a lot of these guys are less experienced than their varsity counterparts, but it's a great learning experience for them. So this race should be in the 6:40 or so range, and off the line here again, Minnesota novices, so true novices lane 0, Indiana true novices lane 1, Virginia lane 2, Ohio State's novices lane 3, Washington State lane 4, Louisville lane 5, and Clemson lane 6. And one of the fun things about this event is anything can really happen here at the novice level or the third varsity level. It looks like Louisville off the line with a fast start there from lane 5, and then might be Ohio State and maybe Virginia there. Tough to see all the bodies moving here, but it looks like Louisville may be just a little bit of a lead. Looks like Virginia's got that gray boat, so they may be in 2nd there, and then Ohio State in 3rd, and then Indiana certainly right in that mix as well.
So much adrenaline at this point in the race. You know, you've just gone off the line. You're excited to be out there to be racing. It doesn't hurt quite yet, so these girls are feeling pretty good at this point.
And so maybe, you know, Washington State's slightly off the pace, Minnesota slightly off the pace, and Clemson, but Washington State has come back in every race they've been in, started in the back of the pack, and certainly the second half of the race focused. Clemson maybe a little bit off the pace here as well, but certainly a great battle there, first to 4th. And Clemson was in that other 4 race where they came back towards the end as well. Looks like good battle here between maybe Virginia's got a seat on Louisville there. Ohio State historically has been a good second half crew as well. They're maybe 5 seats off the lead there. Virginia, let's give them a half seat at most to Louisville. Louisville, let's say a couple seats there over Ohio State. And then Indiana certainly in the mix there. Indiana maybe a seat or 2 back as well.
I would imagine we get 600 or 700 meters in here. We'll start to see a little bit more separation through the middle of this race here.
Yeah, Virginia's starting to move just a bit on Louisville, but not significantly. Between 1st to 3rd is kind of 5 seats, and Virginia's got maybe 2 of them on Louisville, and Louisville's got maybe 3 on Ohio State, but that's a tight battle for 2nd and 3rd as well as 1st, 2nd, and 3rd for that matter. Indiana at 4th, also right in that mix there. Washington State looks to be 5th, then a battle between Clemson and Minnesota for 6th there. So let's see here. It looks like Virginia continuing to move out just a bit there, maybe 4, 5, 6 seats up on Louisville. Ohio State's starting to come back. They're often, you see them in the second half of races doing well, and Ohio State's starting to come back here on Louisville just a bit. Also Indiana, haven't talked about them as much, but they're right in that mix as well. So Indiana, let's say 4th, but within striking distance of 2nd. Just off the pace here, that battle for 5th, 6th, 7th between Minnesota, Washington State, and Clemson. Washington State starting to come back into the fold here again. We've seen this earlier today.
There's the separation starting to occur. Virginia still continuing to push out here. It looks like 2nd, 3rd, 4th, pushing away from 5th just a little bit. So,
yeah, Virginia maybe, let's say 7 seats up on Louisville, Ohio State, and a good battle there. And Indiana maybe just off the pace for 4th. Back to Washington State for 5th, and then tight between Minnesota and Clemson for that 6th spot. That may end up being an exciting battle too. Virginia now just starting to get open water at the 3rd 8 level. So Virginia maybe a couple seats up, and looks like Ohio State in 2nd, and then a good battle there for 3rd between Louisville and Indiana. Again, depending on the angle there, looks like Indiana's certainly holding their own against Louisville for that 4th spot.
I think a lot of these women are walk-ons, or do you think some of them rode in high school, or do you think it's a mixed bunch?
I think there's a mixed bunch, at least from my experience. You see that some of these guys just maybe pretty young. I mean, the novices clearly are pure novices in the sense that learned in college or before. But the upperclassmen, sometimes you find some pretty good athletes there who maybe haven't figured out how to the stroke and how to move the boat.
Yeah. Steep learning curves.
So now looking to aiming for the last, let's say probably about 700 to go here. And separation that Megan was talking about is playing out here. Virginia now a little bit open water. Ohio State clearly in 2nd, and then that 3rd, 4th battle between Indiana and Louisville. And it's interesting because you see, as you alluded to, Megan, a little bit less experienced group, but certainly some athletes here who will end up being in the varsity 8 someday. It's a great sport that you still have that opportunity
Yeah,
to do that.
there's a lot of room for advancement. I was a walk-on at my college, so you can take it pretty far.
So here looks to be getting into maybe about 600 to go or so. So that's Washington State on the picture there. So it looks like they're kind of holding that 5th spot fairly clearly. That 6th battle between Minnesota and Clemson for 6-7. And that picture here, you see that battle for 3rd. Indiana and Louisville have locked in a battle for a good several hundred meters here. As we pan back to the finish line camera, we're in the last 400 or so. Virginia clearly in front here. Ohio State will be clearly in 2nd there. And then the battle over Indiana on the far side of the screen, on the top of the screen, in the white boat, and Minnesota in the yellow boat above them, just to the left of them. So Virginia in the lead by a little bit open water. Ohio State 2nd, and then Indiana and Louisville will be too close to call until we get to the finish line, as the two of them battle it down to the sprint. So Virginia entering the last, let's say 300, 250 about to be right there. Last 300 for Virginia. Then Ohio State now entering last 250 as well. And
similar to the 4s, these women here in the 3rd varsity are going to be looking to try and make a statement to their coaches and each other about hopefully trying to get a chance to try for that 2V and see if they can continue to improve as their season rolls along.
Yeah, you never know when a 3rd puts up a fast time. Might push them to 2V pretty quickly.
Exactly.
So Virginia now heading into the last 100 meters or so. Open water up on Ohio State. Ohio State just about a length up on that 3rd place boat. So Virginia in the last little stretch here. And as they come through the line, may hear a horn here as they come through. That signifies to the boat that they finished. So through now, and then Ohio State just open water back, 1st to 2nd, and then it looks like Indiana is going to just nip out Louisville there for 2nd and 3rd, or excuse me, for 3rd and 4th.
That's tight race for 3rd and 4th there.
Washington State will come through in 5th here, and then that battle for 6th, 7th. Looks like Minnesota will come in 6th. And then Clemson just behind them in 7th. So now head up for the last race of the day. This will be the 2nd heat of the 3rd varsity 8. You'd see there in the picture that the darker boat is heading into the stake boat. So they come in, line up, and then try to straighten out and prepare themselves for the race.
So there's a person, you can't really see here, but there's probably docks up there, floating docks, where there's a person laying down on his or her stomach, and they will hold on to the stern of the boat, and they probably have headphones in, and they're talking to someone on land to make sure that the bows of the boat are all lined up evenly at the start of the race here. And they'll be moving the boats back and forth a little bit just to make sure that they're all aligned, and then once they get aligned, they'll have a probably pretty quick start here with a little bit of the wind.
And the winds are supposed to pick up this afternoon, so this morning, great opportunity to have good, fair, fast conditions.
Yeah, it seems to have held off nicely here.
And you saw a 6:20 type time, 6:17 for the top 8s this afternoon. Might actually be a tailwind, although strong tailwind, so you could see faster times this afternoon. It's tough to compare times between even races and heat sometimes, but this has been a reasonably fair.
Yeah.
It appears that way, yeah. So lining up for the last race, so lane 0, Oklahoma on the top. Lane 1, Duke, Wisconsin's novices in lane 2, Texas novices lane 3, Syracuse lane 4, Central Florida lane 5, and Virginia's B entry in lane 6. So the times from the previous race: Virginia's A 6:48.5, Ohio State's novices 6:53.3, Indiana was 6:56.7, Louisville was 6:58 flat, Washington State was 5th in 7:04.3, Minnesota's novices 7:11.4. And Clemson was 7th and 7:13.1.
You hit the nail on the head with the time difference between the 2 and 3V. It's like you actually know what you're talking about, Steve.
Yeah, right. So 7-boat race looking to start here at the last race of the morning. Gorgeous morning for racing here.
It's a beautiful venue for anyone who at home who hasn't been here. It's Clemson. It's a gorgeous venue. You can see the start and the finish line in the same when you're on shore, so that's a pretty great way to watch a race.
Yeah, Megan, you've raced a lot of places. You can talk about there aren't many courses that can fit 7 boats across in the US.
there definitely are not that many. Here there's room for 7 and then some, so it's a great place. You should come down and race here if you haven't.
So now the start for the last heat of the third varsity 8 / novice category. So it looks to be from the middle there, maybe Wisconsin and Texas coming off the line. Syracuse also in that mix. Looks to be maybe Texas in the lead in the middle of the screen. And these guys also, again, trying to compare the times with everyone else. Virginia and Central Florida maybe slightly off the pace there. But from the middle, that looks to be Texas in lane 3, Syracuse lane 4 in second, Wisconsin maybe in third. Well, Wisconsin and Syracuse very close for that second and third spot. Duke over there in lane 1, but also actually looks like Oklahoma may be ahead of Duke from that far side. So locked in a battle here with Central Florida and Virginia for 6th, 7th, and Duke looks to be 5th. So off the lead, Texas there, and then looks like Wisconsin is trying to stay with them. Wisconsin moved a couple seats out on Syracuse. And with Oklahoma again on that far side, looks like Oklahoma's right in that mix there. So Texas maybe 6, 7 seats like we saw in their other races, getting off the line. Pretty quick, trying to get to the open water right away. Wisconsin's maybe stopped their move a bit. Wisconsin, let's say 7 seats back, and maybe moved out on Syracuse there. So Wisconsin in second, Syracuse and Oklahoma in a battle for 3rd, 4th. Then so we're about 500 in here. Let's say Duke 5th and Virginia 6th, Central Florida 7th.
Texas pushing out to almost a full boat length here, entering the second 500.
So Texas sitting, let's say, 8, 9 seats ahead of Wisconsin there. Wisconsin certainly has
tight
had
battle for second.
Wisconsin has a strong freshman program over the years, and certainly continuing that here at this level. So Wisconsin, let's say 8 or 9 seats behind Texas, but probably 2 ahead of Syracuse. So Wisconsin doing well there. Oklahoma's still right in that mix there for that 3rd, 4th spot. Virginia's starting to move back there on Duke for that 5th spot. So that may end up being a good ACC battle. And then Central Florida in 7th, still within striking distance of those 2 boats. So let's say 750 in or so. And then, again, looking up to the front of the pack, Texas now just about a length lead over Wisconsin. Wisconsin, let's say about probably 4 seats, again, depending on that angle, 3 seats maybe. Syracuse staying right in there, though, for that 2nd spot, not handing it to them at all.
Texas coxswain probably telling them now to start racing a clock to put forward a good time and not kind of take their foot off the gas here just because they're out in front.
And Syracuse now has moved back in Oklahoma. It looks like Syracuse is clear 3 and really close for that 2nd. So Syracuse maybe fell behind a couple seats but started to battle back there for that 2nd spot. Looks like Virginia may be in 4th there, certainly moving on. Well, no, Duke's still in 4th actually. That's again a little bit of an angle deceiving there. And Virginia fighting Duke, and it's tough to see each other in this situation being in the outside lane, so the coxswains will have to do a good job with that. And then Central Florida in 7th, about a length off that battle for 5th and 6th. So now coming into probably just past 1,000 for the leaders there. Again, Texas just about a length. Wisconsin just about, let's say, maybe 5, 6 seats on Syracuse there. So Wisconsin had a good move in that chunk of the race. And then Syracuse maybe, let's say, 4 seats up on Oklahoma there for that 2, 3, 4. So exciting battle 2, 3, 4, and then battle 5th and 6th separately from that 2, 3, 4 battle. And Wisconsin trying to end that early. Virginia's starting to continue to creep back here on Duke for that 5th, 6th race going on right now. So this is interesting. You know, we haven't had this before, but for the last race of the day, the cameras are following the boats home. So maybe I'll get a good shot all the way through. Texas still in the lead. And you can see they're just on the left. Well, for a moment it was on the left of the screen. This is a shot on Virginia here on the near side. They're battling for that 5th, 6th spot. 750 to go here. Again, you see those red buoy markers. See the orange buoy up ahead with 500 to go, but that's a little bit of a distance away. And then Oklahoma staying in that mix there for that 4th spot. So a little bit of bouncing here. You get some wakes there. It's tough to keep everything steady. But we're going to probably switch cameras here for that last 500 as we get close. So as they get that vantage point, there's a lot of organization to get everyone in and out that camera just saw a glimpse of. But that buoy again,
500.
Yeah, 500 to go there exactly. So Texas still up. Wisconsin now clear 2nd, and looks like Syracuse is a pretty tight battle, maybe a couple seats up in Oklahoma for that 3rd, 4th spot. So here, Oklahoma coming through, again 500 to go. Still a bit of the vantage point angle. Texas, you're not going to see for a minute, even though they are ahead. Starting to see Texas's blades there. Wisconsin in that second spot. So Texas with about, let's say, 350 to go.
Again,
Texas,
it's just the angle that you're looking at that makes it look like they're...
So Texas in the lead by a good, little bit open water. Wisconsin next to them in the red. So the orange and red are tough to distinguish, but the orange of the boat a little lower on the screen, red just above it, using wearing their team colors to help us distinguish a bit what's going on there. But Texas in the lead, Wisconsin second, and then that Oklahoma, Syracuse, starting to see in the picture. Again, for those who've never seen rowing before, it's a line at the starting line that's parallel to the line at the finish line, and so the camera is less important to the course, and so obviously we follow the course, and you see as we get to the finish line how that pans to make sure you see it all. So Texas here in the last, let's say 150, 100 meters or so. Texas about a length. Wisconsin clearly in second, and then the real battle is that third, fourth spot, and then another battle for fifth and sixth between Virginia and Duke that we have not seen in a little while there. So last few strokes for Texas, again trying to put a time up to match their second 8 if they can. So Texas now through the line, just about last couple strokes. So quarter length water for Texas over Wisconsin, and through now, and so about a 5.5, 6 second spread back to Wisconsin in second. Now that battle looks to be that Syracuse came through Oklahoma there for third.
About 4 seconds back.
Yeah, Oklahoma in fourth, and then between let's see, Duke and Virginia here for that fifth, sixth spot should be coming through. Looks like Virginia came through fifth, and then should be Duke in Central Florida for that sixth and seventh spots. Looks like Duke here in sixth, and then Central Florida will come through in seventh. So just a couple links back to Central Florida. Here they come onto the screen, and Central Florida through. So to get times from the last race of the morning here, once we get that through, we'll clear up. But Meg, if you can just speak briefly about having 6-7 hours off between now and the afternoon races, kind of how you prepare for a session at 5 o'clock.
Well, it'll be really, I mean, this is a long break during the day, but it's actually nice because these girls will want to get in and finish cooling down to flush out some of the lactic acid they produced, and then eat and begin the recovery process right away. You want to be off your feet once you've cooled down, and kind of as inactive as possible, as lazy as possible. So whether that's reading a book, listening to music, just kind of turning your mind off a little and allowing your body to recover and prepare for the afternoon session where they have to go back to work here in 7 hours or so.
Yeah, and this afternoon the racing starts at 5 o'clock. We start reverse order with the third 8 to the second 4, first 4, second 8, and then first 8, trying to give the boats with the highest point total the calmest water. Usually midday around here you get some wind and a little bit tougher for the boats to manage, but so we'll start at 5, and then